What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto gets Sharingan from Kyuubi? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Children left the academy just half an hour ago with their parents, while Naruto was lonesome on the academy's swain. He swung. The glint on his cerulean orbs beamed at the full moon, but this was no one ordinary moon. His blood was boiling, not with excitement but a terrible omen. He had warned Sasuke, but all he got was a HMPH from the sound of his rattling throat. He wondered why Sasuke was not with his parent on open house as he watched Sasuke disappeared into the tainted moonlight. Alone he was again. No one cared. All the villager treated him like a scapegoat. Today Naruto had gotten his ass handed to Sasuke in a sparring competition. The class filled with blissfulness as they all seen the look on poor Naruto's face as expecting him to cry like a sorry bitch. To their surprise he just ran out into the park. No one followed. Good, he thought. He'd rather be alone, but Kami forbid it as a feminine voice called him out from a distance. Naruto. Naruto-kun. Naruto at first was startled at this woman. No, he shook his head. A beautiful woman calling out to him till she knelt down beside him. Naruto glanced up as the lady had long black hair, but something about her face seemed so familiar that Naruto sworn he'd seen her from somewhere. Had he met her someplace before or he recognized her for someone else? This was the first that someone out of the academy and the Hokage properly addressed Naruto by his name and well formal by adding the suffix to his name. She was wearing a navy blue kimono with a large duffel bag hauled over her left shoulder. Lady, do I know you? He shrugged. Sweaty, did you happen to see Sasuke? My son. Oh, now I get it. Sasuke's mom, he said with uncertainty, but Makoto nodded. He go home. Thank you, but you're coming with me. He shrugged again, but it only took him seconds to realize the scornful look on Makoto's face. She hauled him over her unoccupied shoulder as he yelped in unison. He knew it. She was going to berate him. He pleaded, "I not hurt Sasuke. Don't hurt me." He would kiss the lady's feet if he had no choice. Knowing the anguished trauma he suffered all his life from the village's chastise, she zealously grinned at him in hoping Naruto's mood would change. "I'm so sorry that I've scared you. I promise that I will protect you with my life." Naruto glanced up at her with such ambiguous thoughts plaguing his mind. Is this lady for real? You see Naruto-kun, I was good friends with your father and best friends with your mother. It was an unfortunate event that had taken place right after you were born. The reason why you were treated wrong because your father, Namikaze Minato the Yondaime Hokage, had given his life to seal the Kyuubi inside of you that nearly destroyed this village. Please don't hate your father for it, understand. He could never use another child and have it take the burden. He wished that for you to be the hero who saved us all by being the jailer of the fearsome gargantuan nine-tailed kitsune. But the villagers never treated you as one, she cried. Never before Naruto would imagine a lady would cry on his behalf. He wanted to reach out and snuggled against her waist, but he was scared and shy, but knowing who his father was. He was happy. It gave him the confidence to confront Sasuke's mother without fear. Being the son of the Yondaime. Cool, he exclaimed. The 4 Hokage is my daddy, but where is mommy? He asked in unison. Makoto frowned. Your mother Uzumaki Kushina was a foreigner from Uzu no Kuni, now known as Nami no Kuni. I was first introduced to her by your father. I'd learned she only had boys as her friends. She was a tomboy. She was very physical and troublesome to begin with, but in due time, I was mentally able to lift the masculine barrier that had prevented her from becoming a girl in the first place. We're very close friends, best of friends, till we loved each as sisters till I had married Sasuke's father. I regret that the Uchiha clan used me to spy on Kushina because she was the Kyuubi's host at that time. When a host loses its biju, they die. Naruto cursed, which caught Makoto's sorrowful onyx orbs. I'm so sorry again Naruto-kun, if only I left the clan with both my sons and you. We won't have to be caught in the crossfire between Konoha and my clan. I will not let the villagers terrorize you any further and my husband forsaken you. I tried adopting you, but both the Sandaime and Fukagu disagreed because of the uprising of the Kyuubi invasion that the Uchiha clan was being blamed for. What your clan did, we were blamed for unleashing the Kyuubi by extracting it from your mother, killing her instantly. though in the manga she survived till the ending of the ceiling. Makoto doesn't know that, and used our famous Kekkei Genkei Sharingan Do Jutsu to control the Kyuubi, but we didn't. We were set up by the Foundation when they had lured us away from Konoha before the siege commenced. For the past 6 years tension built up between the Uchiha clan and Konoha that my husband and his advisors had enough and conspired a true uprising of their own. It was not till today I'd learned their true intentions, stumbling upon the secrets of the Uchiha clan's ultimate dojutsu, the Mangekyo Sharingan. To unlock this fearsome dojutsu, the user must be willing to kill the person that they love dearly or a close friend. The Uchiha elite is planning to kill all the weak to obtain the MS. I think my husband will try to kill today and make my eldest son Uchiha Itachi kill Sasuke before the uprising begins. Trust me Naruto, you are not safe here anymore if my clan gets a hold of you. They will more likely resurrect the Kyuubi and unleash it upon Konoha. We are leaving the village once we get Sasuke-kun. Naruto nodded with trepidation. What happened? That was when they arrived at the Uchiha estate, but something was off as Naruto climbed off her shoulder, surveying the scenery with his azure orbs, scanning every inch. Not too long, Naruto screamed as a mutilated corpse fell from the rooftop onto him. Blood stained the oak wood floors of the apartment and the overgrowth patch of weeds. The blood was fresh. Naruto squeaked in terror as he mustered all the strength to roll the body that pinned him to the autumn turf. Just as she feared, no, it has begun. I hope we're not too late. Sasuke stammered to the entrance of his house as he heard several screams beyond the wooden slide door. He cautiously slid the door open only for his eyes to widen in terror. His mother was hanged on the ceiling. She was cut open as remnants of blood dripped down into a sea of blood. His father Uchiha Fukagu lied lifelessly in his spouse's blood, also his blood contribute to the mass pulp. What is going on here? Okasan, Tucson. A shadowy figure appeared out of the kitchen, gradually approaching him from the front. He looked up as the image of his deceased mother deteriorated. Genjutsu, he thought. Wah, who are you? Sasuke, an all too recognizable voice made his teeth chattered. He couldn't believe his eyes as the man who stood before his very own eyes was indeed Uchiha Itachi, his elder brother. He murdered them. Suddenly, Sasuke grimaced, holding his left shoulder. He felt the warm liquid drenching his hand in a sea of red blood. It was his blood. Sasuke never saw Itachi flung the kunai that grazed his left shoulder. Then pain began throbbing endlessly like a drumbeat. He knelt in agony. Ni-san, why did you kill father? Where's mother? She's out somewhere, but don't worry. Mother will be joining father soon with the rest of this Kami-forsaken clan. It's a shame that I couldn't save the innocents who would have carried out Obito and Shisui's legacy. Still, why had he killed them? He wanted to feel angry, but phobia began to replace his hatred. Any moment, anxiety would take its toll. He watched as the image of the clan being slaughtered before him. He cried out, wanting to do something about it, but his legs failed him. Soon he returned to the physical world. He squirmed and coughed out saliva. He felt as if he were zapped with electricity. He could not take his eyes off his Oni-san's bloodlust shuriken iris ms, still coughing. So it was you killed them. You killed Shisui. I thought he was your friend. Little brother, you will understand what I did is for the best of the clan. Liar. He spat with such malice. You are a murderer. A traitor. I will personally kill you. Sasuke pried the kunai that had been flung at him out of the door with such exertion. He charged carelessly. However, the genjutsu that was placed on him was starting to have a significant impact on his body, as being pierced by thousands of senbons as he stammered out of control towards Itachi. He swung when in range. His wrist was snared and broken in half by Itachi's iron grip as Sasuke dropped the kunai in pain. Sasuke was whirled around in a complete circle before a devastating roundhouse kick chipped into Sasuke's shoulder sent the raven hair boy sailing through the house. Itachi knew just 4 more inches higher could have been a fatal blow that Sasuke's head would have caved in, as he took on last glanced at his father that he'd just murdered before following the skidding trail of broken wooden splinters. For some reason, Sasuke never believed that he never felt the impact of his Ni-san's foot. It was just as if an invisible force shoved him with such brute force through the walls of his house. He tumbled out of control. Small projectiles scraped against his skin. His progress had been halted but in an unexpected way. He felt warm hands catching him like playing dodgeball. Looking up, all he saw a boy with blonde hair and cerulean orbs glancing down upon him. Sasuke watched as the blonde toddler posed with a thumbs-up grin as he lifted Sasuke to his feet. "Woo Sasuke dude, you're alright?" Naruto dusted Sasuke's back. Sasuke just completely stared at him with awe. "Dobi, what the hell are you doing here?" "Teme, we've come here to look for you." He saw his mother approaching fully with tears. "Sasuke, there you are, thank the heavens." Sasuke ran past Naruto into the outstretched arms of Makoto's. "Okawa-san, brother killed father, he killed everyone. The clan is dead." Makoto ruffled his duck-buck raven hair. "Worry about that later, we need to leave before we're spotted from the others." "Mother, that won't be necessary. May I ask, where are you going with Sasuke and the nine-tailed Jinchuriki?" Makoto shuddered as her eye never left the sight of his Mangekyo Sharingan. His Anbu uniform covered with blood of their relatives and loved ones. "Itachi, I will not let you kill Sasuke and use Naruto-kun as a weapon of mass destruction. Go ahead and kill me if you want the MS," she spat. Sasuke frowned. "Mother, no. Son, you and Naruto, run for it and no looking back." Itachi flashed step, catching the toddlers off guard as he stood between them with his katana flushed against his mother's throat. "I think not. Do not move or else I will behead our mother Ni-chan, and that goes for you to Naruto-kun." Something stirred within Naruto as his eyes began to flash from blue to dark crimson, red kitsune slits. His whiskered marking thickened, his knuckles whitened as he glared at the elder Uchiha brother. His body undergone a trance as a demonic shroud of chakra blanketed the Jinchuriki. He dropped on all fours. "Why, you? Stop." Naruto curiously glanced up at her with a shrug. The Kyuubi shroud decimated and his cerulean orb restored. "Itachi, please do not hurt them. Let them go and take my life for an exchange. I was a lousy mother and an ungrateful one. Death will be my punishment. I only wished that I had the courageous effort before Sasuke-kun was born. In fact, his parents would be alive, and you would never have to be alone." Itachi chuckled. "What I want to know is, where are you taking the kids?" "Far away from the elders as possible. They will tear us apart." "I see," he muttered. "It was the elders who suggested I eradicate our family to prevent the uprising. Father thought I was working for him, little did he know it of my true intentions. Erasing the clan would prevent Konoha shinobi bloodshed and countless innocent casualties. It wouldn't matter, your father was going to have the strongest, or rather the elite of our clan, murder the weak, children included. Within the plots of the massacre that never took place, Fukagu was so posed to kill me and have you kill Sasuke, obtaining the MS." Itachi and Sasuke glanced at one another and said, "What?" in unison. "It was just a matter of an hour in your favor. If you're an hour late, you'll be confronting the MS elite. I ran to get Sasuke and Naruto and planed to flee Konoha. Now I want to know is, why didn't you spare the children? Goddammit, Itachi. They deserve to life and possibly carry out Obito and Shisui's dream of protecting Konoha from the elders' corruption. I've never foreseen it. Damn you too, San." Then his brain registered the second of what she said. He cringed. "I simply couldn't because I was not the only one here. You failed to notice me. I saw you kill Shisui and took his left Sharingan eye. I know you never murder him, so please I ask if you come with this Hun." She was suddenly irrelevant because she thought Konoha was side by side with him during the massacre. Itachi's eyes were wide of fruit grapes. How the heck she hid her presence him would forever be a mystery, which brings me to this. The man who helped me is also an Uchiha. Itachi re-established his previous topic. He's very old but young at the same time. He was responsible for the extraction of Kushina-sama's 9 tails. This man is someone that none of you should ever cross paths with him. Unfortunately, for you, Naruto, beware of him in the future. He will come for you eventual because of the Kyuubi that resides inside you and try to do the same. Like he done with your mother. If the Kyuubi is removed from inside of you, you'll die." "Who is he?" Naruto gulped. "He's the founder of the Uchiha clan and one of the great rivals of the Shodai Hokage Senju Hashirama." "You mean Uchiha Madara?" she exclaimed. "He wanted everyone to believe that he died by Hashirama's hands, but whatever power he obtained many years ago made him immortal, immune to aging. Tonight he got his revenge on the clan that betrayed him. That's the last favor we should give him." Next time, we will end his miserable life, but till then. Suddenly a black curtain blinded them as they appeared in the Itachi's MS Genjutsu. Naruto felt weird as his body felt heavy. He couldn't describe the scenery well, but to him was as the Uchiha estate was highlighted in black light X-ray vision. However, Sasuke had witnessed this before he begun to shiver. Though Itachi, Makoto, and Naruto remained by his side, he wondered why Itachi needed to use his Genjutsu again. "Ni-san, why are you using that Genjutsu again?" "It's not me. Someone has cast a whole new level of Tsukuyomi. I'll try break us free." "Boy, it's futile. But don't be afraid of my presence, Uzumaki and Uchihas. I've only come to applaud your accomplishments of eradicating my brother's malice and lusty influence that has tainted the Uchiha clan since its founding, and they're a gift that I want to bestow the Uzumaki child with." Makoko face palm. "You're." There, he stood before the, dressed in platinum, navy blue armor. His duck-butt raven hair has its similarities as Sasuke. The comparison between the two is identical. Anybody would mistake Izuna as Sasuke in adulthood. Naruto's azure orbs simultaneously switched between them. Naruto thought Izuna was a better match as a brother description than Crimson Eyes had a triangular, tomato iris of a Sharingan scared the shit out of him. Izuna smiled was reassuring. "Welcome to my domain, Uzumaki and Uchihas." Izuna sounded younger than he looked. "For the past 75 years, my power has roamed the earth, which I sealed into Tsukuyomi mixed with Izanagi the very moment Oni-sama had taken my eyes for his own usage. He then was granted the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that has infinity amount of light that can never fade like the normal MS with too much exertion of its power. The user would eventually lose the light within their eyes and forever blind to see the light of day." How's that possible?" An ambiguous Itachi wondered. "I never heard such a calibration. Even of Izanagi before. Care to enlighten me?" Izuna chuckled. "Of course, you wouldn't know of it because there's no record in the Uchiha archives hidden in your clan's secret hideout. Izanagi is known to be the most feared and a taboo among the Uchiha clan. The Genjutsu allows the user to create an illusion into a physical form or the opposite on themselves. For instance, if you were instantly stabbed by an enemy kunai, you could reverse and make your wound cease to exist as if you haven't been stabbed. On the other hand, you could convert illusions into physical forms. It was written down by the Rikudo Sennin, sage of the Six Paths, that this very technique originally was what he used to create most life that you seen in the shinobi world known as Banbutsu Sozo, creation of all thing. It was also used to create all the 9 bias. Everyone besides Sasuke and Izuna was utterly shocked. Sasuke had no idea what bijus are, and judging from the look on Naruto's face, he couldn't help but feel left out. What does Naruto and his family know what Sasuke doesn't, he thought. And what the heck is a biju? Sasuke snorted. How did you come across such a theory of myths? Itachi sneered as he crossed arms in a moody manner. I assure you not. What I speak is not a myth. Oni-sama had discovered ruins hidden everywhere within this continent containing records of the Six Paths' history and his way of life. According to your legends, he was worshipped as the kami of shinobi. Why? He had written down that there was a 10th biju known as the Jubi, 10 Tails, which he stated that nearly destroyed the world of mankind. In order to prevent Armageddon, he had to seal the Jubi into himself. So he was the first ever Jinchuriki. It was within his final moments that the Rikudo Sennin decided to seal the Jubi's body in the sky where no men could reach it. In due time, it became the moon, and its chakra was so massive that he had to split the Jubi's chakras into 9, thus using Izanagi to create 9 life forms that each will house one portion of the Jubi's chakra. He'd not stated specifics how he'd performed the sealing. He had feared that the Jubi would be resurrected upon his death. Before the Rikudo had passed on into the afterlife, he stated that his 2 sons would have possession of his chakra, body, and eyes. Makoto scoffed, not buying 1 minute of his story. If you said is true, then hasn't anyone discovered such tablets? Archaeologists of the old ages had discovered the tablets but couldn't decipher contents. It was stated by the Rikudo himself that only those who had possessed his eye, the Rinnegan, will completely decipher the hieroglyphics. Those who possessed any do-jutsu like the Sharingan will only partially decipher the hieroglyphics. How Madara had completely deciphered the tablets is beyond me. Maybe taking the Shodai's powers had something to do with it. I know he will be back for the Kyuubi. Perhaps having both the sages split chakra allowed him to do so, but his main goal is an event that the world must never experience. All I know, he was studying Mugen Tsukuyomi. Mugen Tsukuyomi, he repeatedly retorted. Every new information was exhilarating, so he thought everything about his clan. He mentally cursed himself. There was much more to learn than what meets the eye. How much did Fukagu learn? He could never be too sure. His father day in and day out filled him with knowledge of their ancestors, heritage, and techniques, so he thought. Fugaku had motives to hide taboos from Itachi, just in case his son would have revolted against the clan, which ultimately led to father's fear, or he, like many others, had not known that such potent genjutsus existed. I don't know the specifics of this genjutsu Oni-san was developing when I alive, but in his memo. The jutsu was designed to cast his MS onto the moon, so it will bathe mankind into its glare, ensnaring them into eternal slavery and control under his own will. This was not a good omen. The four of them thought. How ludicrous and utterly barbaric in wanting world domination and control. Who was this mad man who had taken his parents' life, Naruto's parents' lives, and so many had perished? Though, Naruto was still young to experience hatred. It escaped his lips from the sound of a growling, which never left Izuna's gaze. Is the Kyuubi strong enough to power Mugen Tsukuyomi? Judging from having the Kyuubi in his possession twice, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Besides, there was one last thing that he had studied. The insurrection of the Jubi. The Kyuubi is only part of the equation. He would need to somehow seal all 9 bijus. Touché, even he can't do it alone, and is something that you will have to be on the lookout. Prevent him from doing it. I'm not doing this out of vengeance, but justice. He then glanced back at the blonde toddler. Boy, avoiding your fate will only awaits your demise. Madara will come for you regardless if you hide and run or not. Do you want my powers? Hey, that guy outta his mind. I will. Won't let him control everybody. Datbeo. The promise of a lifetime. He zealously grinned. Makoto chuckled at his silly antics, but kept it to a minimum, seeing as if Izuna could still be a threat. Now to her, Naruto has inherited Kushina's boisterous and childish behavior. Naruto never hesitated to speak his mind. He wanted to pay back the ancient Uchiha, and by means with Izuna-sensei's knowledge and strength. However, Itachi was still uneased about all of this. What if it could be a trap and Izuna secretly wanted to resurrect himself? Seeing as Naruto was enjoying himself, Itachi couldn't help but smiled. He noticed Sasuke was silently baffled and obscured about the whole encounter of meeting Izuna. His eyes then trailed back to Izuna. Uzumaki-kun, I existed long enough to witness your parents' growth. Your parents' goals were solely on eradicating the cycle hatred and ending the shinobi system. Madara wants the same, but his belief in slavery, while your parents want people to acknowledge each other by mutual understanding. You know why your parents' goals are futile in this world? Naruto shrugged. Hatred has been mankind's oldest disease. What fueled this disease the most is jealousy. People envy each other every day for stupid reasons such as love. Let me tell you a story involving the Rikudo's sons. Before his demise, he granted the eldest son the yin portion of his chakra along with his eyes, while he'd given the youngest son his body and yang portion of his chakra. But who did he choose to be his successor? He had chosen his younger son. Not too long after his father's death, the eldest son, out of pure jealousy, had attacked the younger brother. Thus began the battle of the ages. As they passed on into the afterlife, the battle continued with their descendants for many generations. The eldest son's descendants later had evolved into the Uchiha clan, while the youngest became the Senju clan. For several centuries, this rivalry fought against one another till the Senju began to drop like flies. In the end, the Uchiha clan prevailed when the Madara secretly assassinated Senju Hashirama at the Valley of the End. Tonight it is the last chapter of the Uchiha clan. At least the Old Testament. Itachi had faked a cough. There will be a New Testament. The Uchiha clan will finally follow the will of fire. Izuna could not hold his laughter. Everyone looked like at him with insanity. That is indeed what I've been waiting to hear from you Uchihas for 75 years. Though the Old Testament has passed on both sides, the Uchiha and Senjus were not the only bloodline of the brothers to evolve into shinobi clans. The Uchiha has the Hyuga clan. Its Byakugan is indeed the sister dojutsu of the Sharingan. The Uzumaki clan is relative of the Senju clan. They both shared the Rikudo Sennin's Yang chakra, and these two clans have magnificence power to control or suppress a Biju. I tell you, jealousy is not the only spark of hatred that will taint a person's heart. Vengeance and lust for power will drive a person on the brink of insanity. You are just like my older brother in his youthful days. He was boisterous, obnoxious, a joker, and a prankster before our cousin was brutally raped and murdered by a drunken Senju shinobi. After our mother's death was revenge, my brother was never the same again. The childish boy who used to make me laugh and comfort me was dead. I was a fool and followed in his footsteps in obtaining the MS. Tu-san said that both of you killed your best friend. Is it true? Izuna's lips formed in a straight line. That is where I regret my destiny. I was afraid to turn out like him. The guilt haunted me in my dreams. My best friend's last moments could never be erased from my memory. It was like a curse from the grave. He had tormented me in my dreams till the day I died. Still, will you enlighten me how you kept your existence hidden amongst Konoha shinobi? I'd carved out a taboo fuin underneath the Konoha that sealed my mind and soul away eternally. I designed the seal to allow my ghostly figure trek Konoha. I can never travel too far because of chakra depletion. There within the fuin, my realm, I can replenish my powers. What happens if you deplete your chakra? Naruto asked. Dobi, Sasuke shook his head. Itachi knew the true reason behind Naruto's education. Most of the instructor refused to tutor him. Itachi was saddened that Fukagu forbid him to come in contact with the Kyuubi's vessel. Good riddance, he thought. Why? Didn't the instructors had taught you about chakra? He wanted to hear it from the boy's mouth, but before Naruto could have a saying, Itachi had cut him off. You simply die. Oh, Naruto cringed. Sasuke smirked. Ni-san, Naruto likes to skip out of class. He was then smacked in the back of the head. OWW. A welt formed on the side of his head. Sasuke noticed that he was being left out again. I'm sure you have your reasons. Now I know this may seem optimistic, for 75 years. How did Yo manage to conserve chakra to power your? Surely, you need a source energy to gather from, not to mention that the barrier team would have tracked the chakra signatures hidden underneath Konoha after all these years. Izuna snickered, such a ponderous curiosity. You are right, I do need an energy source to power my realm. The Fuin absorbs natural energy from the earth. I'm not the only shinobi who could do it. Go and ask your fellow Sannin Jiraiya. I've seen him used it during the Second Great Ninja Wars, but enough of the chit-chat. Uzumaki, it is time I shall bestow my powers and heritage upon you. It happened too quick. He was mummified in chakra threads that was connected to Izuna's chakra network. The Uchiha shrieked as Makoto malevolently protested. Her son putted a hand on her shoulder and shook her. His head shook, telling her, no. Ah, he cried. What are you doing to me? Don't be frightened, child. I will simply seal myself inside of you. My Starfire Fuin will be meshed in with your Hake Fuin, 8 trigram seal, sealing me into you. Oh, and there's a catch. You will be in hibernation for the next 8 months to come, but do not fret. I will be training you in the art of Kenjutsu within your mindscape for that time till your rebirth. His onyx eyes were focused on the elderly raven-hair brother. I assume nothing catastrophic will happen to him. Izuna dismally smiled. I cannot promise you that. Nothing like this has ever been attempted. I also want you to train your brother in the art of Kenjutsu. Teach it to him in Tsukuyomi. 5 hours per week and he shall have 8 years of training upon Naruto's rebirth. Konoha needs a double-edged sword. In due time, that double-edged sword will become the new Sharingan brothers. The legendary duo. Makoto exclaimed. I see, you want us to reclaim your and Madara's title. Izuna smirked. It's not reclaiming. It is a simple mere token of my appreciation to carry out what need to restore peace among mankind. His eyes for the last time set upon the blonde boy. Now the time is at hand. I'll insert myself into you, Naruto. Do you have any last words and same to all? Makoto was the first to approach him. Naruto, I had no right to take you away, and you have every reason to hate me, but after all this finishes. It's your decision to remain in Konoha for the rest of your life, but I want you to know if you ever need a family, a mother. You have my boys as your brothers. You're always welcome into the Uchiha family. I swear as an Uchiha. No one will ever look down upon you as a noble, not even the Hyugas. Naruto wanted to reach out and snuggled against her warmth, but his restraint held him in place. Why you I always want a mommy. With that, Makoto was broken. She embraced Naruto more precious than life. Naruto also cried as a response. So this is what means to be love. He didn't see Sasuke appeared beside him also in a tight hug. He looked up with his moistened azure orbs. No longer he saw the brooding, emo Uchiha. Sasuke was smiling as he patted Naruto on the head. Naruto on the other hand was petrified of the revelation. Never in his wildest dreams, Naruto though he would see Sasuke smiled, and came to terms. Naruto, I know our past was not bright, but I agree to with Okawa-san. So do I. Thanks Sasuke. Itachi-san, shut your eyes, Anusa said. Naruto did as he was told, and not longer than 30 seconds. The chakra threads melted into hazel, blue glowing larvae. Then Naruto was encased. The final touches were a human-sized cocoon where Naruto had lain in hibernation for 8 months. During the 8 months, Itachi had threatened Konoha to drop all the charges against his mother, made Hiruzen sign the papers for adoption. No harm would come to his family and had a 1-year ceasefire issued to all Anbu divisions marked in the bingo book database. If Hiruzen and the council failed or disregarded Itachi's demands, Itachi would not hesitate to come clean and broadcast the conspiracy behind the Uchiha massacre to Konoha civilians and to the rest of the world. The Uchiha gathered in the yard awaiting Naruto's rebirth. Their backs were facing the old Uchiha cabin. Sasuke thought the moon had the same gaze beaming down upon them like a sign 8 months ago. Forever, he would never forget that night. He came to hate his father. It was no secret that Fukagu refused to acknowledge him also that he would be a sacrifice tool. He watched the cocoon glowed transparent blue, like the Shiki-Fujin ogre. He can see a shadow cascade over what appeared to be Naruto's hibernated body. For some reason, his chakra was being drained uncontrollably. He saw Itachi slapped his forehead. Why does he have a headache? This was not normal because the same had happened to Sasuke. Sasuke could hear Naruto's screams and cries form with Sasuke's mind. Sasuke suddenly saw Itachi uncontrollably shut his left that had bled. He had shouted, Amaterasu. Black flames seeped out from the expose MSI. The flames spread like wildfire, which was immediately absorbed into the cocoon. A dark, sinister violet hue had replaced the glowing transparent blue. Sasuke could not focus as he was screaming in pain, feeling Naruto's agony, anguish, and pain. His head stopped throbbing as 2 crimson eyes overlapped the onyx eyes Sasuke had. Looking up, Sasuke had revealed his newly activated level 1 Sharingan to his mother, but before she could have any saying. The cocoon had hatched. A towering Amaterasu engulfed the cabin in a sea of everlasting flames. Lucky, nobody was inside. What is that? Sasuke pointed at the Amaterasu had taken shape of a giant covered with a hood over its head. Son, what is that? Makoto shouted pointing at the giant flaming phenomenon. Susanoo. Itachi had called out as the very same apparition shrouded him like a suit. Both Susanoos stared at each with such malevolent intent. Only a fowl would misjudge these spiritual beings. They saw Naruto in his nudity state began to gather himself. Naruto's body was ripped. He had a 6-pack abdominal that you would not normally see a kid Naruto's age, but his shaggy, blonde spikes no longer had Minato's golden hue. His hair was bleached platinum blonde. His head remained down till Naruto completely was on his feet. Then with one jerk, his head slowly lifted and met his family's gaze glaring back at them with Izuna's Mangekyo Sharingan. Susanoo's fist collided with Itachi's. The Uchiha family prepared for a fight for their lives. Stay behind me, Itachi warned them. Makoto and her youngest soon stood behind. To his curiosity, Sasuke stuck his hand out and gentle brushed the crimson chakra armor of Susanoo, feeling of being zapped. Sasuke shook his temporarily numbed hand trying to get a feeling. Such power, he thought. Itachi-kun, please don't hurt your brother. She bragged on her knees. Itachi keenly cocked his head in her direction and gave her the slightest nod of approval. His Susanoo's hand gently embraced her. She couldn't believe something so immensely extraordinary could be so gentle than she normally thought. She was gently hoisted to her feet. I won't just need him to deactivate Susanoo before he starts a brushfire. He reassured her. Naruto's Susanoo made some subtle changes in its strategy and shot an arrow of bolted chakra. Sasuke never expected Itachi's Susanoo parry the arrow with its hand. The chakra arrow was then absorbed into Itachi's Susanoo. Naruto's Susanoo then began to unleash flurries of rapid punches. Itachi's either blocked or weave around the punches while Sasuke and his mother stayed behind Susanoo and anticipated rather if it were going to step forward or backwards. When he had the chance to go on the offensive, Naruto and his Susanoo was pinned up against the destroyed cabin. That was when Naruto's Susanoo submitted its defeat as its crimson demonic aura on Naruto decimated. Naruto gagged. His Sharingan was degrading. It went from MS to level 2 Sharingan then to the very first stages with only 2 irises. Naruto dropped on all fours gasping. Till today, Itachi had never experienced an Uchiha's Sharingan downgraded from a MS to the first stage. He wondered if there were side effects. Well, it's for the best he doesn't wield the MS at such a young age. Ni-sama, will Ni-chan be alright? Itachi remained silent as he also deactivated his Susanoo from play. Naruto chuckled. His now cerulean switched to Sharingan on and off in a pestering fashion, which annoyed Sasuke. Teeheehehe. Just kidding. His family sweat dropped. What's saw matter you scary cats? Sasuke's blood was boiling with rage. Curse the Dobi to pull a prank in such adverse times. Naruto, remind me to kill you afterward. That's if you can scary cat. Don't tempt me Dobi, Sasuke snorted. Itachi sighed as he shook his head. Enough you two. Hionix's eyes absorbed the sight of Naruto. Naruto, before we get started. On behalf of the family. Welcome to the Uchiha family. Naruto nodded. Makoto clutched her hands together. A soft, warm smile formed on her tendered lips. Yes, dear. During your hibernation, I have adopted you into my family. I'm legally your foster mother till you're 18 years old, but remember this. I will treat you as if you are my own flesh and blood for life. Come give mommy a hug. Naruto hugged the ravenet with tears cascading down his sun-kissed skin. He knew this was not a dream. This is reality. He has one mother and siblings worth his while. Naruto's cerulean orbs trailed towards Sasuke as he reached out for something. Naruto gently broke embrace with his mother and observed Sasuke's hand. It took him 10 seconds to recite the hand gesture. Naruto mentally cursed himself. Out all the people in the world, he would never thought in his wildest dreams Sasuke would be the first person to shake his hand. Naruto was still obscured. Should he shake hands? Sasuke. Welcome to our family Ni-chan. Tears were threatening to run down his eyes once again, but Naruto knew he shed enough tears for the night. It was then Naruto's nose had sensed the smell of burning oak tree. He deadpanned. Naruto then putted on a fake innocent smile. He knew that he was responsible for burning down the Uchiha cabin. Naruto's sweat dropped and scratched the back of his head nervously. How was he going to play the innocent game? Thanks everyone, may I ask? What happened to the house? Boy, he didn't miss the glares he was receiving from his bothers, but Makoto chuckled and told Naruto that it was not his fault. Nami no Kuni. Present. The daimyo typically locked himself in his office as his thugs were stationed outside granting no entry without permission. That was till he heard groans coming from beyond his office as the sound of bodies clattering on the wooden floor. He then slowly picked up his katana that was standing idly by a sculpture of himself. He unsheathed the katana, but it was knocked out of his hands as he watched the katana fell helplessly. He then felt a cold blade flushed against his throat. Tyrus, what is the meaning of this? I thought we had an agreement. Oh, change of plans. Gato, I've decided this land will be my base of operations. The Kiri Nunkin had a long brown ponytail. He had such a handsome face enough to make most women squeal before him, but half his face was covered with a navy blue ninja mask. He was wearing a dark leather trench coat that covered his black tank top and most of his lower body, which Gato could not see. He smiled with mirth underneath that mask. He could feel the fear radiating off the daimyo's kneeling body. No, please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. Bragging from his knees, Gato cried out childishly. Tyrus turned and met his fellow kunoichi companion. Yuna, did you hear that? He mocked. Yuna snickered. Poor Daiwimo wants to do our bidding. The blonde kunoichi also wore the same leather trench coat, but her well-exposed cleavage was shown, and she was wearing a pink bikini. Gato guessed that it was just to have her way with men. Seducing them to the palm of her hands, she has a pink scabbard sheathed her katana. She watched as Tyrus held his favorite gold coin flickering in between each finger. Then he finally revealed it before the daimyo. Is that so? I say, heads, you live and tails, you die. Gato watched as Tyrus flung the coin in midair. His life was on the line. When catching the coin, Tyrus then held out the coin, and the expression on Gato's face was a grim one. Tails it is. No. One swing was all it took to get the job done, but today was not his day as someone came crashing down from the ceiling. A different swordsman, but this guy was much younger than they expected. It was a boy who was dressed in a ridiculous orange jumpsuit. He saw another boy kicked Yura through the flimsy drapes and the door and vanished from his sight, but his eyes were deadlocked on the whiskers. Their blades still clung together. Naruto was smiling. Where did you come from, you rant? To his annoyance, his katana slid upright, creating sparks. Naruto saw what he was doing and he used the momentum to push further in, but the brute strength of an adult proved to be overwhelming. Naruto was thrown on his butt, but recovered incredibly with a back flip and parried the incoming katana in time. Beats me, he played dumbly. I'm here for the bounty on your head. Such young for a bounty hunter. A twerp like you will take 20 years of training to be on the same level as me. Quote, do not underestimate me, Datbeo. Naruto threw 4 shurikens. Tyrus batted them down. He then hurtled in the boy's blind side and slashed slantwise. Naruto quickly anticipated Tyrus's movements by ducking while the katana beheaded the statue. Gato nearly pissed his pants when the head of his statue fell silently onto his lap as a reminder that it could have been his own. Gato cried as his office was being under demolition. He crawled under his desk, but proved to be futile when the desk was split apart from Tyrus's katana. Tyrus blew out hundreds of water-shaped senbons. Naruto pushed the daimyo out of the way as he received most of the damage. Naruto's body disappeared in a puff of white smoke. Well, look at that. The boy can do Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Tyrus scorned. Is that all you've got? How about this? A flashbang to be written in a paper tag detonated below Naruto's feet. Naruto was nearly blinded. His eyes felt as it was lit on fire. Only did he saw the shadowy silhouettes of a person's katana descending for his neck. Rolling hard to his right, Naruto felt his body afloat. He was underwater, but why? That's why. He was trapped in a sphere of what? Hey, no one can't escape my water prison no jutsu. Just submit or else you will die. What is this jutsu? Can't move or even mold chakra. I'm hopeless, but that never stopped me from trying. I'll never go back on my Nindo way, Datbeo. Have it your way. The Kiri Nunkin with the katana in his left hand while his right was occupied with the water prison jutsu jabbed through the sphere of water, making its way through the blonde toddler's chest. Naruto's body puffed into another cloud of white smoke. Damn you with your shadow clones. He spat. Sharingan. Tyrus dropped the jutsu and parried the boy's katana from behind. When he turned, he looked briefly into the boy's crimson eyes. Sharingan? Didn't the Uchiha clan got wiped out? He averted his eye from Naruto's glimpse, knowing the illusion effects a Sharingan user could cast on a person through the eyes. Naruto mused, the clan is dead, but few lived plus one just joined the family 9 months ago are alive. Tyrus did not comprehend the second half of the boy's sentence. I see, you're the first blonde Uchiha I've ever seen. Too bad you will be the last. Naruto chuckled, unfortunately for you. This will be the last time you'll get to lay eyes upon an Uchiha. Tyrus was then ensnared in a twine of vines. Tea hats sprouted beneath him. Suddenly, they were not in Gato's office. Wah, since when? He knew he was trapped in a genjutsu. I've glimpsed only at your eyes for few seconds. He struggled against the binding of the vines, but it proved to be futile. Few seconds all that I needed. Your fate has been sealed and don't bother breaking the genjutsu, because as we speak, my brother is restraining you. Have a nice life. Wait, damn you. I swear I will. His world went blank. Sasuke snorted looking at Naruto's Sharingan. He'd seen it upgraded when Naruto then began to stir from his sitting position. Took you long enough, but don't keep me waiting next time. He said it with no emotions. Naruto scoffed at Sasuke's sudden outrage. What do you expect, Datbeo? I'm the one who's been fighting the leaders while you deal with the small flies. Stop your rambling, Dobi, and just for the record, this was your first. Next time I'll take the lead. This is what he hates about Sasuke. In a moment, he can be your best friend, but he has these mood swings that will drive Naruto crazy. Naruto hated Sasuke's brooding and emo attitude, especially when there was no reason for him to be all moody. They haven't come across any fangirls lately, and Naruto sure got a share of some of Sasuke's fangirls. He first thought it was blissfulness to have feminine attention, but the more they kept on nagging him to be his girlfriend. Naruto could mentally agree with his brother that fangirls are annoying and troublesome. They only care for looks and popularity, not the person's heart. One girl. Just one girl he would allow, and yet she's miles away in Konoha. The worst of that, she only held an affection towards his brother, and top of it, she hates Naruto. Such a turn of events would be a miracle. Who knows? Maybe he won't be infamous with the Konoha female population when they discover that he's an Uchiha. That was the reason why he had his share fangirls on their trip. Sasuke nudged him on the shoulders. Hey, were you even listening? He shrugged. Whatever Teme. Let's summon Oni-san. A scroll fell out of the hands of Sasuke. The scroll in magical open as it unleashed a smokescreen. Within the smoke cloud was Itachi, but not fully equipped with ninja wear. His eyes seemed heavy as if wakened unexpectedly. So how did it go? He said it after yawning. Believe it, every went smooth as planned. Itachi snickered as he saw the changes in Naruto's Sharingan. No doubt Itachi knew Sasuke was fuming in the inside. Good, you two take the rogue Chunins to the rendezvous point, and Naruto. He offered his hand. Congratulations upgrading your Sharingan. Now I can either teach you or give you scrolls to access more advanced genjutsu. Naruto reached out and shook Itachi's hand. Wow, he exclaimed, I never noticed. Sasuke scoffed. Dobi, seriously, you can be very dense when it comes to the obvious. Sasuke spat while turning his back. Teme, how the heck I so supposed to know when I absolutely feel the same? I haven't looked in the mirror yet. Can you enlighten me for someone who hasn't yet to reach level 2 Sharingan? Suddenly a pestering smirk found its way across the blonde Uchiha's lips. Now you know how I feel when you have the heart of the one I love. HMPH, Dobi. You two put a lid on it. Itachi jabbed their foreheads, making them winced. Ni-chan needs to learn how not to envy me. Naruto playfully put his brother in a choke hold. You going to have level 2 sooner than you think. They wrestled around. Whatever, and would you mind getting off of me? Naruto found himself to be straddling Sasuke's lap. Both of them squirmed away from each other as if one of them had the plaque. Both of them nearly puked. Itachi watched on humorously. He then faked a cough as to get his brother's attention. Now leave and I will see you two at the cabin. The checkpoint was normally filled with ninja hunters, depending which region they were traveling. Nami no Kuni doesn't have a hidden village, so they mostly rely on Konoha or Kiri for assistance. As usual, the adults' expression were priceless, knowing the Uchiha brothers were only kids. Some would get moody and throw a fit, but once their Sharingan eyes lit up. Kids or not, no one was brave enough to challenge anyone from the Uchiha clan. No one dared to cheat and steal from an Uchiha. As usual, with or without Itachi, the boys had no trouble getting home. From time to time, thugs or bandits would keep watch for signs of vulnerability. With their intimidating Sharingan flashing red, there was none who was stupid enough to attack an Uchiha. Plenty yen tehehehe, for one bounty. Sasuke snickered. Very good, now you can get rid of that ridiculous orange jumpsuit and buy you some decent clothing. Hey, he scoffed, stop calling my masterpiece trash. Besides, you have money to get rid of that duck butt hair with a decent haircut. Sasuke scowled as his teeth clenched. Why you? As they enter the cabin. The inside seemed to be ransacked. Furniture, appliances were destroyed. There seemed to be a struggled from the living room to the kitchen where the door was located. Ka-sama, Oka-san, he frantically yelled. He searched every room, and he could also hear Naruto shouting for their mother. Where are you? He muttered. Naruto tapped on Sasuke's shoulders. Sasuke saw that his blonde Ni-chan was frightened. Here's a note. Naruto hesitated in giving Sasuke the note as it said. Greetings Uchiha brothers, if you wish to see this beautiful woman ever again, you'll need to do me 3 favors. First, you are to retrieve 3 swords. Masamune, the sword of Raiden, Retribution, the Buster sword, and lastly the Sakagari longsword, the sword of Tuska. The map to each sword is hidden is owned by a thriving Kenjutsu master that goes by the name of Toru. He can be found at the tavern called Heaven's Fall. Be warned, he is a leader of a notorious Yakuza. Fighting him won't be a walk in the park. If you're successfully to retrieve the swords, travel to Kirikagure no Sato and assassinate the Yondaime Mizukage. Once your task is completed, and you successfully survived, make your way to the Valley of the End exactly 2 months from now under the glimpse of the full moon. You will then grant me with the 3 swords for an exchange. Any later than midnight, I will see to it that she will cease to exist. From the Whisper of Wonders. The tavern filled with drunken Yakuza samurai warriors and a village of bandits, muggers, thugs and thieves. Itachi scurried into the back unnoticed by the bartender. He found an operation of smuggled goods being packed and hauled onto a carriage. Knowing that these items were stolen, Itachi dashed to the high beam toward observing the thugs. You. Quit slacking off or else I feed ya to the wolves, said the overseer. What ya expect, the heat's killing me. Suddenly, the thug's head fell off his neck rolling endlessly in a sea of blood. The overseer wiped the remnants of blood onto his sash. Immediately, the atmosphere changed in the loading area. Anyone else wants to lecture me? The room was silent. As I thought, he chuckled. Back to work you stupid pieces of human cockroaches. None dared to speak, but someone thought it was funny. Speaking for yourself? Itachi said it discreetly. The overseer quickly unsheathed his katana. Who said that? His henchmen backed away in fear, pointing fingers at one another. Show yourself. Itachi leapt across and landed behind the overseer. You, was all he managed to say before he was diced in half. Itachi sternly shot a glare towards the thugs. I want to speak to your boss. Go to hell. The thug was stabbed through the heart. He dropped and died. I've warned you all. 2 minutes it took Itachi to massacre the thugs. Each body was gruesomely hacked. The experience was never more the less intimidating. The leader blind-sided Itachi and in the process nearly lopping off the raven-haired teen. His body was replaced by projectors of black crows. He said you would come, and you would come for this. The obese samurai fidgeted the scroll between each finger to say the very list. Itachi was losing his patience. He unsheathed his katana. A quick slash was easily parried. The mocking look on the Toru's face dared Itachi to continue. Itachi never before had been beaten in Kenjutsu with his Sharingan activated. He got up and dusted himself. Surprisingly, Toru never took the opportunity to strike him when Itachi was at a disadvantage. I don't have time to play this foolish game. I will give you one last chance. Give me the map and I won't send you to meet your men. The samurai chuckled evilly. In exchange, I want those eyes. Itachi sighed with no emotions. In all and fairness, Itachi casts a genjutsu, and it failed. Something is dispelling my illusions. Could there be a genjutsu repellent somewhere here? Itachi and Toru exchanged blows while maintaining their footwork. Their blade clung together. Toru knew that Itachi was desperately trying to catch him in a genjutsu ASAP. Those eyes can't hurt me. I've rigged this place with tags that activated a barrier that nullifies genjutsu. Itachi was trusted to the ground once again, but with a mischievous smirk. Impressive, but what about Tsukiyomi? Toru's eye never left the Mangekyo. His world was black. He suddenly found himself roped to a cross-crucifixion style. All the humor and triumphant feeling in the world was replaced by horror and trepidation. He was sure that no genjutsu could break through the barrier. He had fooled himself. That's impossible, he spat. No genjutsu is potent enough to withstand the nullification. Here, I can bend time and space under my will. What will seem to be a second in reality? In this realm. A second in the physical world is like ours here. Impossible. I've never heard with such a jutsu. It is my clan's ultimate genjutsu. I will give you one more chance to surrender the map. Take it. Ju just spare me. Very well, your life is spare. But since you've delayed me long enough. The screams were excruciating. Luckily, no one had witnessed such brutal ceremony of being stabbed 10,000 times by clones. Ni-san, what are you doing here? About time you two have showed up. The same reason you two are here. Quote, Oni-san, you're too good. Naruto grinned. A ninja must always be on top his game but, unfortunately, last time. He frowned. We will get mom back. Naruto said in unison. That's a promise of a lifetime datbeo. Sasuke in the meantime was observing a nervous breakdown Toru. What's up with him? No one couldn't hint the stupor in Sasuke's voice. He won't be such a nuisance anymore. Konoha Kagure no Sato. Haruno Sakura was busy doing her normal morning routine jog till a boisterous platinum blonde came and ruined the day. Quote, "Hey billboard brows, guess what?" Sakura only shrugged as a response. "I've heard Sasuke-kun is returning in 3 months from his rehabilitation. I cannot wait till I see my Prince Charming." A large vein burst on her forehead and clutching her fist. "Dream on. Why would Sasuke-kun want to meet a pig such as yourself?" Ino also went through a similar motion. "Sasuke-kun's clan will have a conference. My clan. You seriously think I will believe you? His clan is dead. Stop trying to score points. Believe whatever you want. Forehead. You're forgetting that Sasuke's brother and mother are still alive. Daddy is going to have a conference with Sasuke's mother, and I bet they will talk about arranged marriage. From this point on, all hell could break out any moment. I don't have time to play around. See ya later. Teeheehee." Ino printed and left a dust cloud of tracks behind. "You pig, come back here." Not locking where she was going, Sakura collided with a person her size. "Ouch. Sakura-san," a whimpering and angelic voice called out to her. Sakura was dead silent as she was responsible for shoving the Hyuga heiress. She cursed profoundly. Her parents would ground her for life if she were responsible of injuring a noble. She quickly hoisted up the heiress. "Oh, it's only you, Hinata." She tried to play innocently. "Sorry about that. That I is okay. So I've heard Naruto-kun is also coming home." To say the very least, Naruto was the last thing on her mind. She knew Naruto disappeared the same day as Sasuke going to rehab according to the gossip. "Why would I care about that, dead last? I don't see why you're so infatuation over him." Hinata's face flared as she was suffering from heatstroke. "Don't give me the innocent puppy eye look. It's obvious that everyone can see you are crushing on Naruto." Hinata nearly fainted. "No, I'm not. Is it that obvious?" Sakura snickered mischievously. "Unlike Ino, you're a sweetheart, and now I do feel apprehensive about you dating that obnoxious troublemaker." "Sakura-san, I don't think Naruto-kun is not all that bad." Hinata pouted. Sakura shrugged and still couldn't understand Naruto's mind. How could someone with such highly expectations fallen for the dead last? This was something she suddenly pondered. What does Hinata see in him that I don't? If he isn't, then why mischief is on Naruto's standard agenda every day? He has no parents to teach him manners and to teach him between right and wrong. Hinata sighed disgruntled. "That's the problem. He has no parents, and it's not Naruto-kun's fault. I've seen how the orphanage had treated him. They castrated him and treated him like a scapegoat. This happens mostly on his birthday when Naruto has been beaten to an inch of his life. Adults would refuse their children to come into contact with him. My clan told me that he was a bad influence. I'm sure your parents told you the same." Sakura heard the stories, but she couldn't believe the bogus story. The villagers wouldn't dare to commit such barbaric acts even, though, it was simply harmless pranks. Why would they do that to him? I know his silly pranks are completely harmless, but still. I've known Naruto since he was 5 years old. He once tried to rescue me when I was abducted by a Kumo ninja, and last year. He stood up to a bunch of bullies and took the punishment that was meant for me. She held on to Sakura's hands as tear poured down her cheeks. "Sakura-san, I don't think Naruto had done anything to deserve this chastise. Something terrible of the past has reflected upon Naruto, which he had no control of his fate. If Naruto were a troublemaker like you say, I wouldn't be here today." Sakura shook her head. "This doesn't make sense. Why would the villagers castrate Naruto? He hasn't done any harm to them. I can see why Naruto would pull these silly pranks. I would do the same if that were to happen to me. I don't think he does it for vengeance or retribution." She shrugged. "I think he wants to be recognized and be part of this village, not to be treated like an outcast. Every time, restaurants refused to serve to Naruto. Every time stores, markets would raise their prices on their products a tenfold when he enters. I can see the dejection and confusion written over his face. Sakura-san, I tried to reach out to him, but something always anchored me. I can only watch from the shadows and watch him suffer, especially from you." Hinata said it with all the hate in the world. Sakura cringed a little from hearing the malevolent tone within the Hyuga heiress's voice. This was the first time she had ever seen Hinata in this state. She now felt guilty in mistreating the blonde boy. Sakura had sworn from within, she will be nicer. That's because I thought he was trying to get in between me and Sasuke-kun. I wouldn't have to castrate him half the time if I knew he was suffering. I thought he was spoiled because he had no parents and could do anything he wanted. He seemed so zealously happy and prideful of himself to assume it was a mask. A facade to hide all the anguish and suffering. That was enough to put a smile on the Hyuga girl's face. Naruto-kun may be enthusiastic, loud, obnoxious, and naive, but his kindness, selflessness, and determination to become a better man in life put a smile on my face. My admiration of Naruto-kun is the source of my strength, just like Sasuke-san is yours. At least one of the clans adopted him. I'm happy to see he has a family. Sakura's eyes flickered stunningly. Wah, she exclaimed. Which clan? Tsuchi no Kuni. A week later. Catacombs. The sliding was considered the best part for Naruto as the Uchiha brothers slipped down a slipway into a narrow walkway. Sasuke screamed as his body landed on a pile of a human skeleton remains. He stood and dusted himself of medieval dust. Naruto helped himself to pester Sasuke. A disgruntled look of terror had diminished quickly and was replaced by anger. Naruto averted his eyes, whistling innocently. Cool, let's do it again. He grinned zealously. Itachi and Sasuke was bemused. It would seem like Naruto has a fetish for slides. They remained silent, walking the maze. Itachi, Sasuke, and Naruto took turns activating their Sharingan and followed the chakra pathway only Sharingan and Byakugan could see. They ran into little troubles, nearly plunging into a death pit. Multiple arrows shot out from within the wall and paper bomb tags detonated when nearby targets were in range. Itachi lit up the torches on the walls. The shimmering of blazing flames lit up a cozy corridor. At the end, there were murals of the Edo period. Itachi made sure he double-checked the map. Sasuke, to Itachi's right, surveyed the map from a distance with his Sharingan. The tower should be up ahead according to the map, the whisper of wonders left in our possession. He muttered to Naruto. But it's a dead end. There's nothing here but a wall. Naruto pointed out with disbelief. Sasuke for the first time agreed with Naruto's theological explanation. The trail was at an end. Still, he couldn't admit Naruto was right. Do you think I am making this up? The map points here to solve the hidden murals, whatever that is. Naruto's response was only a shrug. Itachi glanced at the wall appointed. Brothers, use your Sharingans. Beneath the murals are keys hidden from naked eyes, just like the chakra pathway. What chakra pathway? Both had the same thought, but their vision began to change hue to an ultraviolet color to detect chakra signatures. Cool, they both exclaimed. Pinkish colors were on the ground that led out the corridor and in each person they saw. Naruto and Sasuke could tell how much chakra each shinobi has. Snapping their head forward, the Uchiha boys then seen the pink hue hidden under the murals. Chakra connectors in a form of. It's an eagle. Sasuke blurted. What does this mean, Ni-san? It's a puzzle. Look where the chakra lines are connected. Itachi channeled chakra to both his index and middle finger and tapped the empty nodes on all corners of the eagle. There were pulses of flashes glowing from the eagle before the wall slid upright, revealing another room. Bingo. Guys, what are y'all waiting for? Teehehe. Naruto typically was impatient, would always rush into trouble before thinking. Naruto-kun, wait. Naruto ran and stood center in a room with nothing but a monkey sultan statue. Naruto turned his back and waved at his brothers, unaware that the monkey's eyes were glowing velvet. See, there's nothing to worry about. You guys are a bunch of scary CAAT. A trap door opened and sent Naruto plunging into the dying abyss. Naruto! Sasuke screamed, rarely addressing Naruto by his name. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Naruto responded saying, more or less. Itachi draped his arm around Sasuke's waist. Hold on to me. Itachi had no problem climbing down the wall using his feet. To say the very least, Sasuke and Naruto was awestruck. This was their first time witnessed this climbing method. The Uchiha brother sighed in relief that Naruto was left unharmed. Sasuke then punched Naruto softly on the cranium. Dobi, next time you pull a stunt like that ever again, I'm going to unleash hell. Naruto, not paying attention, then pointed out into the distance. Is that it? Itachi used the torch to light up the walls drenched with ancient oil. The flames spread like wildfire around an immense pyramid. His eyes then traveled down the slope. Nothing out of the ordinary appeared as he then began to stroll cautiously. Stay behind me. As they were 3/4 of the length down, Naruto had stepped on a hidden button that triggered something from above. The horror within Itachi's crimson Sharingan could never be misread as he watched the ball of rock that he made it out to be an immense boulder dropped on the slope with the sound of thunder rattling the concrete walkway. Shit, run, can't you blast that boulder to Kingdom Come? They neared the edge of a clear and had a clear view of the pyramid surrounded by black water. Never mind. Itachi snaked his arms around the brothers and jumped just when the boulder was 4 paces away from them. Such perfect timing allowed the boulder to slip under him. Itachi landed on top the rolling hunk of stone as it sailed through the upright. As Itachi righted near the bottom, Itachi crouched still with the kids in his arms and vaulted off the rock using the boulder's momentum to thrust forward. Carefully, he molded chakra to the soles of his feet as he landed without a single splash. Soon, land was within reach, but trouble soon found Itachi as his eyes glanced to his feet. His sandals were disintegrating. He built enough momentum for another chakra enhancement jump and lounged forward, carefully kicking off his sandals, watching it disintegrated. Itachi had never been happier to set foot on land that he would kiss the concrete. He then relinquished hold of the boys. As usual, Naruto was always enthusiastic when came to stunts, rides and slides. "Oni-sama, what type of water eats up your sandals?" "It's acid. Lucky I never decided to let you guys take a swim. Let's carry on." Itachi chuckled to his brothers, cursing. About 10 minutes it took to walk up the pyramid. There a huge buster sword about 5 feet tall buried halfway in a stone, Excalibur style. "That's one huge sword," Sasuke said agape. Itachi tugged the sword with all his might. "It won't budge as I thought." He said it dejectedly. "The map says the chosen one can only pull the sword out of the stone." "Let me try." Sasuke had no luck. "Damn it, it's stuck like super glue." "It's futile. You two make your way to the bottom. I will use Susanoo's strength." Naruto never tried to attempt the pulling of the sword because he was still drinking in the sight of such awesome sword. Something inside of him urged him to pull out the sword. A sensation that seemed too obscured to understand, but it never hard to try. "Chosen won my butt, what?" Naruto pulled the sword out effortlessly. "What the heck you've done, you idiot?" Sasuke could not believe his eyes. Why did the sword choose the Dobi over him? Itachi could only smile, much to his chagrin. "It seems retribution has chosen you to be its wielder, Naruto Ni-chan." To Sasuke's surprise, he had never expected Naruto to behave the way he was expressing himself to a new sword. Naruto tested the blade with such ease. Suddenly, a stairway opened up above the pyramid, and the Uchiha used it to make their exit. The assembly hall was gathered with council members from the civilian branch to the shinobi branch. Every clan leader was also there. The one who summoned them all was Shimura Danzo, head of the Anbu Root Division. His antipathy towards the Uchiha clan bloomed after Itachi failed to kill every member of his clan. "I am curious, old friend. What importance that you wish to debate here with us today?" Hiruzen asked curiously. Danzo as usual remained passive. "You know what I speak of, the Uchiha family and the nine-tailed brat." Hiruzen smoked on his pipe, and as he exhaled, he took the pipe out of his mouth and crushed it, disregarding the burned tobacco searing his fleshy palm. "Old friend, why must you always refer to Naruto's Jinchuriki status and not address him by his name?" "Because you know what he is. Which is why, I'm going to add to the decreed," he retorted venomously. "No one within this tower that protects our very foundation will not address Naruto by his Jinchuriki status. The consequences are severe for those whom oppose the decreed, and I remind you all that Naruto is official and noble. Do I make myself clear?" Everyone nodded. "Good, now what do you have in mind?" No one dared to protest Hiruzen now that he was in foul mood thanks to the old Warhawk. "The Uchiha family is scheduled to arrive with 2 months. What will be the course of action when they arrive? For all we know, they could be plotting a rebellion, conspiring with other nations and strike us?" Many were bewildered at the very least. Many had numerous questions, but Nara Shikaku beat them to it with simply a fake cough, which drawn him the attention, as he cleared his throat. He smiled as the room was silence and every eye were drawn to him. Danzo was not pleased to be interrupted. "Forgive me for my rudeness, Danzo-sama." Danzo acknowledged with a nod. "But may I ask, what brought you to conjure such a theory?" "To my understanding, the Uchiha clan is loyal to Konoha, not to mention the first 2 clans to establish this foundation. Do you know something we don't?" Danzo sneered had not gone unseen. Yet clearly some of you are completely unaware of the traitor and murderer's motive. He could have them brainwashed. You're exaggerating. You have no evidence that Itachi left with them. Being skeptical will lead to misfortune. Inoichi interjected. However, I may have to agree with Danzo's theory. It has been nearly a year, and Itachi would have a tremendous amount of time to meet up with them. Himura implied. There were many bickering among themselves, though it was Shikaku who had spoken his mind. I've been wondering for some time, why did Itachi spare his mother and brother? Why did he request to have his mother to adopt Naruto? Here is inside. Makoto was Uzumaki Kushina's best friend, and like a sister to her. Fukagu refused to adopt Naruto because of the accusations we held against his clan. That would mean Makoto secretly held a grudge against her husband. It may not be appropriate and not be my place to ask, but was Itachi and Kakashi by any chance his bodyguards? That is confidential. By any circumstances, the Hokage is not obligated to answer your questions. Information on Anbu Black Ops activities are strictly forbidden to discuss with the normal division regardless if you're the Jonin commander. I interject. Inoichi erupted of his seat. You're speaking out for yourself. That might be the case with your secretive Anbu ROOT division, if the Hokage wishes to debrief us with Anbu internal affairs. He has the privilege to grant any shinobi under his jurisdiction information. That will be enough, Yamanaka-san. My sincerely apology, Sandame Hokage-sama, he bowed. Not at all, you were only speaking your mind. He waited until Inoichi be seated. Anyways, we will proceed according to the plan, that is if you have any conclusive evidence, old friend. Hiruzen furrowed a brow. I do not. He said it dejectedly. Any more inputs before we conclude today? I do, however. The voice came from the Hyuga seat. To everyone's surprise, Hyuga Hiyashi, head of the Hyuga clan, stood up, and had spoken a word. It was a rare sight indeed. Most of the Hyugas would keep to themselves unless if council affairs mattered to them. This was perhaps the only third time Hiyashi has spoken during his 10 years as a leader. The last time he has spoken on the behalf of the Konoha was after his twin brother's death, Hyuga Hizashi. Carry on. Hiyashi sat in his chair, judging that the Uchiha clan is on the brink of extinction and Naruto's newly noble status. My thought is having the lost Uzumaki clan also restored to glory. Everyone was awestruck. This was too sudden. What was Hiyashi imposing? They knew Hiyashi was one of the few clan heads that have a great abhorrence toward Naruto. This village does not have authority over the Uzumaki clan. Uzushio and the remaining members of the Uzumaki clan have the right to restore the clan to prosperity. Unfortunately, Uzushio had been wiped clean off the planet, and Uzumaki Kushina was the last known active kunoichi in the 5 hidden villages to decide the outcome of that clan. Tsunade. Isn't her grandmother an Uzumaki? Several of civilian council members did not like what Hiyashi was bringing to the table. Here, they thought Hiyashi would side with them against Naruto. It appeared looks could be deceiving. Tsunade does have Uzumaki blood coursing through her veins, but she has been born as a member of the Senju clan. As for Kushina's wishes, she won't take the responsibility in signing the CRA, Clan Restoration Act, and had revoked her nobility rights, which restricted all her offspring to be born that of a noble, unless the father of her children is indeed a noble himself. She also stated that as long as this continue wearing the crest of her beloved village and clan, the Uzumaki clan will live on with this in spirit until the end of times. That way, we wouldn't end up suffering the same fate as Uzushio. That is why she'd chosen to live her remaining life as a commoner. The adoption made him a legal noble, allowing him to invoke CRA. According to Konoha's CRA regulations, hybrids, people who are born or have obtained multiple noble ninja clan heritages within them, are able to select one clan of their bloodline he or she is willing to restore. It was undecided that Naruto's nobility should be revoked after the achievement 18 years. Danzo did not like where this was going. What was the sense in breeding a Jinchuriki if he was not authorized to control Naruto as a weapon? Indeed, he has the privilege, and what makes you think he's a hybrid? All due respect, elderly one, I wasn't implying that he's one. I'm merely suggesting a fact that I disapprove of Uzumaki-san's wishes in not restoring the Uzumaki clan. It will be an immense asset to Konoha. I'm willing to marry my eldest daughter off to Naruto if things turn south. How preposterous. We do not want to repeat the same mistake like we did with his mother. Kaharu protested vehemently. Good to mention it. The only way we can prevent a future catastrophe from reaping itself is restrict Naruto from having children. Danzo said. Hyuga-sama, I have to agree with the elders. We can't allow the Naruto to reproduce offspring of mass destruction being under the influence of the Kyuubi. Now that is a preposterous intervention. Inoichi slammed his fist onto a stack of papers that was perched and paperwork scattering. How can you all do this to Minato's only child? A hero who saved us and this village by allowing the Kyuubi to reside within him. He's right, Shikamaru implied. Just like that, Choza chuckled. That's bias. Listen to Danzo for once, you're all impudent, ungrateful children, Himura grumbled. I must say you have it backwards, Elder One. Hiashi said it with mirth. Hiruzen continued to scan Konoha's regulations. I have nothing against that kid. This was the last straw for the civilian council and elders as they had begun to throw a fit. Accusations were set against every clan household. It was getting out of hand. Order! Order! This got them to stop. The majority of restricting him will be futile. Hiruzen, you can't consider this. That boy will spawn abominations. Konoha is in danger, and we must cast a vote to decide an outcome. Many of them agreed with Himura, but Hiruzen had other plans. Unless he falls under the slavery class, and last I checked. Slavery is illegal in the 5 great shinobi nations due to the treaty signed by the 5 Shodem Kages. Naruto is listed as a civilian of Konoha, and under the KCRA, Konoha's Civil Rights Act. He is to be treated equivalently. With that in mind, if you still wish to prevent Naruto from having children, then I must also grant every civilian under Konoha's jurisdiction the same fate. You do that, Konoha won't last to see another decade. Himura snorted. Then I suggest that those whom agree, reconsidered. And to finally end this session, Hyuga-san. If Naruto wishes to invoke CRA in the future, he has the privilege to restore the Uzumaki clan. That's for him to decide. The Shodem Hokage stood and pointed to everyone, especially Hiashi. And due to his nature to lack knowledge of arranged marriage and politics, I decreed that no one is to take advantage or bribe him in restoring the clan out of their own gain personal. It will be treason, and anyone caught will be punished severely by death. Now henceforth this meeting has come to a conclusion. Hiruzen was glad to be the first to leave the conference hall, leaving verbal arguments behind him. Anbu would step in if things got out of line. The catacomb was like an electrical box. A touch could zap you into crispy critters. Sasuke couldn't count the many close calls. Most of them was from the retarded brother of his. How is it that even possible? This why they call it the land of lightning. His older brother said, this tower conducts electricity from the lightning strikes into a power surge that generates this tower. Still can't believe how Kumo couldn't find this place. Naruto said. Itachi passively looked at him. Our eyes are special for a reason. They thought having Hiyazashi's Byakugan could grant them the ability to find this tower. For some reason the Sharingan is reacting to the current flow of electricity. Sasuke retorted. Sharingans are like scanner and analyzers versus the Byakugan is owning good for its keen all-seeing eye to see the chakra network and numerous types of energy. Without the ability to analyze the lightning storm, it is unlikely any Hyuga or Byakugan user would have found the cavern as we did. How long do you think this tower has been here? Naruto asked. Impossible to tell. My guess is that this place has been here since the Rikudo Sennin era. As Sasuke made it up the stairway first, and entered a spacious room covered with a vast amount of rural and hieroglyphs. The room had 3 tall castle-like pillars reached high above the abyss. Each pillar had a statue of 3 men mounted and each holding a goblet in their hand. If they knew whom these 3 gentlemen were, it was the Rikudo Sennin himself in the center pillar holding the golden goblet in his right hand. His eldest son, ancestor to the Uchiha and Hyuga clan, is to the left of him, and he held a silver goblet in his right hand, and on the right, his youngest son, ancestor to the Senju and Uzumaki clan, holding a bronze goblet with both hands. There is something up ahead. They got closer and the sculpture that stood in the center of the pillars was a gargantuan sculpture of a thunderbird reared back on its talons. The very moment they stepped into a circle that acted as a boundary for the pillars. All they heard was a sound of a clicking sound of a mechanism activated. The mural and glyphs were electrified with the sound of 1,000 chirps, and reaching high above. The circular part of the floor panel began to elevate like an elevator. The tower's ceiling opened as medieval dust particles fell. The black sky of nightfall could be seen once again with nothing but raging flashes of lightning. It was too dark to distinguish how high they were going. Naruto was fidgeting around when a lightning bolt struck between his legs. "Woo, did you see that? Lightning nearly struck me," he said with unison. His brothers ignored his ramblings. Itachi waited until the floor panel stopped elevating before planning his next move. At that exact moment, the floor panel halted its ascension. 3 floor levers appeared upright, one on each of that statue's head. He examined the map a second time. "The map says to solve the riddle and embrace your lives." "It sounds lame," Naruto murmured. "Looks like each lever has to be pulled at the same time," Itachi said to himself as he weaved a tiger hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique. Naruto and Sasuke Sharingan quickly analyzed the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and copied it to the fullest detail. Itachi's shadow clones dispersed and stood on each of the statue's head. They seemed to get the notion to pull the levers at the same time. As that happened, the goblets had risen into a toast from the 3 statues. For about a minute, nothing out of the ordinary seemed to transpire. The statues then lowered the goblets in their original position, disappointing the Uchiha brothers. "Nothing happened, Onisama," Naruto complained. Both Sasuke and Itachi had similar notions, watching lightning bolts every 5 minutes struck the Thunderbird's head. They knew it wasn't a coincidence that the lightning struck the exact same place in a roll. "I think lightning is supposed to strike those cups." "My thoughts exactly," Itachi responded with a grin. The clones pulled the lever exactly 5 minutes later as the goblets rose and clung to one another. Lightning, however, had struck the goblets, setting them in flames. A surge of electricity exited underneath the 3 goblets with a thunder to follow, and encased the statue in a dome of electricity. Suddenly, the Thunderbird's body reeked with countless of Fuin formulas, like Orochimaru's Cure Fuin, as it all seeped into the eyes. "Cool, it's electrified," Naruto exclaimed. "Embrace your lives," Sasuke muttered. This was when the Thunderbird's eyes opened and glowed red. Itachi's Sharingans read the threat that was bestowed on them. "You two, get behind me." The thundered bird opened its mouth, revealing a hilt of a sword burrowed deep within its throat. Itachi unraveled a scroll in time to beat the statue, inhaling the electrical currents that surrounded it in a shroud of armor. In one foul motion, it exhaled a high-density azure beam. Whatever the scroll was had done its job to block the onslaught attack. The boys only had a glimpse of the scroll's strange, scarlet aura that oozed out from the scroll and protected them like a shield. Sasuke watched in awe as Itachi tucked away the scroll within his black robe. "Was that father's scroll?" Itachi smirked and nodded. "Yata mirror, also an ancient artifact of the Rikudos that is said to block everything in its path. Now I understand what it meant by, embrace your lives." Naruto cursed mentally. A shroud of electricity appeared around the statue's beak, preventing Itachi from tugging on the sword. Itachi was forced to abandon another sword yet again to his brothers. When it was Sasuke's turn, he was granted access, and he pulled hard on the hilt. There, a long katana, nearly 6 feet long, was wielded by Sasuke. Lightning had struck the sword, which gave Sasuke a power-up. He was covered in a full-body chidori. He then took a practice swing, and to the Uchiha brothers' surprise, his swing produced a density beam of electricity that shot out into the abyss. No doubt anyone was standing where the beam passed. They would have been zapped and incinerated. Sasuke was dumbfounded when the cloak of electricity decimated from his body, and the sword shrank to dagger length, enough for him to pocket the blade. What the hell? Itachi would never admit that he was now envious of his 2 brothers who now wielded swords of the Rikudo Sennin. Although, there's one sword left, and the most dangerous out of the 3. The sword of Totsuka. The only sword that is not in a physical but spiritual form. That has been bothering him throughout the trip. How were they to wield something that is not from this world? Looks like the Thunderbird has chosen you to wield Misumion, the sword of the Thunder God Raiden. Awesome. A crack developed between Naruto's leg that spread to the 4 corners of the floor panel, and moments later, one half of the floor panel sank lopsidedly. The tower is collapsing. The Thunderbird, which came to live, flapped its wings and knelt down, giving them a notion to hop on its back. Hop on. The bird took to the darkened sky as they watched the pillar who acted as an elevator for the floor panned collapsed as the three statues with the goblets fell endlessly. I'm flying, Naruto exclaimed again. Sasuke snorted and shook his head, we all are Dobi. Oni-sama, where is it taking us? Itachi smirked mischievously, to our next destination. Your biological mother's birthplace Uzu no Sato. The sky was lit up with explosions and plasma beams. From within the smoke, a drone was being forced out from smoke. Out from the smoke was an uni-beam that blasted the robot to smithereens. Then it was like someone turned on a radio. The song, Eye of the Tiger had started playing as multiple mini-missiles were inbound and trucked the regiment of flying spider drones and quickly dispose of them. More of the Zodiac robot drones were inbound from the eastern side of Oahu. Jetting out of the sea of smoke was Iron Man. He began using his basic offensive ability was Repulsive Ray from the palm of his gauntlets. By the time the Eye of the Tiger sun finished, the regiment was neutralized. Good afternoon workout, Iron Man said. Jarvis, got reading on any activity? The AI Jarvis used the satellite's radar to track any hostile. It appears that Zodiac's minions have all been neutralized. Congratulations sir, said Jarvis. Right, I have a date. Iron Man flew over the downtown of Honolulu. Many Bello spectate his arrival. He waved to the people Bello and gave the Shaka sign. As he made his way over the Ala Moana shopping center, Jarvis was receiving a cell phone call. Tony looked at the navigational dashboard at the type of phone that the caller was using. It was Apple's latest release, the iPhone 5. He looked at the caller ID and recognized the caller. Tony, where have you been? Virginia screamed. I've been waiting here for like half an hour. The situation was very complex. Hearing her growled over the iPhone, his started thrusting at maximum speed. How so? Saving Hawaii from a full-scale invasion. TCH. If you're not here in 1 minute, I'll leave. Roger that, Ms. Pepperpotts. He saluted to himself. Or shall I say the future Mrs. Stark? He heard her giggling. He smiled. Don't count your eggs before it hatches, Mr. Stark. Virginia said it seductively. Iran Man had arrived at a beach house, close to Diamond Head. He began hovering over the land platform and slowly made his descent. The moment his feet touched down, the jet thruster on his gauntlets and robotic boots deactivated. Jarvis' arms started coming out beneath the platform, removing the suit of armor from Tony. Tony was dressed in a maroon Aloha shirt, a gold leaf hue surf shorts, 2 Japanese wooden sandals and $400 sunglasses. On the sandy shores of Kahala, a long red-haired brunette, dressed in a 2-piece black swimsuit. Her hips were curvy, and cheeks dotted with light amber freckles. Her skin color was the average of any white women. On whose authority, Mr. Pepper Potts? He said it sarcastic. She'd ended the call and dropped her iPhone onto the sand as it sank in before she sprinted full speed. Tony was nearly tackled, but using the ball of his right feet, he was able to maintain balance for him to scoop her in her armor. Spun her around 360 in midair and brought her down, capturing her lips with his. The kiss only lasted 15 seconds before she gently pushed him away. Do tell me that you flew from Japan, wearing this. She putted her hand on her hips, glaring at him. What if you catch a cold or flu? She pouted. The man's got to improvise on a very tight schedule, excluding those savages of Zodiac. Such putrid abominations of mass destruction. And to think I'm responsible for their predecessor's creation. She cupped his chin. You are not to blame. It has gotten into the wrong hand. Nevertheless, they can never have the knowledge of Iron Man, locked away inside of that thick skull. Nay, I've got a souvenir. He pulled out a black 3-prong from the back of his shorts. The kunai had such a worn-out scroll attached to the hilt. One of Japan's antiques that is worth billions. Virginia giggled. May we resumed. He winked at her before puckering his lips. Oh, mister. You're always one of a kind. She closed her eyes and leaned her head forward. To her surprise, she felt no lips. No warmth moisture of skin, overlapping her lips. That was when she opened her eyes. Tony Stark was gone like the wind. Tony? Somewhere in the land of the moon. Unknown beach. I wish I had your size, Hinata. Hinata blushed madly. Sakura-san, I enjoyed them. I'm sure Naruto-kun enjoyed them too. At least these are bigger, said a voice behind them. Sakura yelped as a hand stroked her butt. A shirtless blonde, spiky hair man in his early 20s appeared behind them. He had 6 whisker markings. 3 on each cheek. He gave out a cheeky grin. The pink-haired Kunoichi Sakura turned around, and brought her fist down upon his cranium. Baka, how much times I tell you do not do that in public? Naruto rubbing his sore cranium. Last time I checked, this was a private resort, Datbeo. He gave her a thumbs up. Baka, she muttered, but held one of his hand. Hinata-chan, will you do something about Sakura-chan? He pouted. Hinata giggled, sure, you can. Come here and give us a kiss. Hinata took hold of his other hand. Naruto grinned evilly. The 3 leaned in for a kiss. Unfortunately, something landed between them. The girls were pushed further back into the ocean with the waves, towering over their heads. Their eyes glued to the shoreline where their husband was lying prone with someone draped over him. Naruto felt something, pursing on his lip. He thought it had to be one of his wives. But when he opened his eyes, horror filled those cerulean eyes like nothing before witnessed. Multi-billionaire Tony Stark was on top of him. Screams could be heard from miles away. The Uchiha brothers made it to Uzushio. The ride to Uzushio was extremely weary on the 3. Being a Jinchuriki, Naruto chakra reserves were the highest, and he never faltered easily as this 2 brothers. Sasuke, having the lowest reserves, was knocked out cold. When they got there, Uzushio was in ruins. There were hardly any traces of unscathed buildings. Naruto and Sasuke were awestruck at the desolated village that was once allied with Konoha. Itachi led his brothers down the catacomb under the Uzumaki place. There was a hidden passageway underneath. However, it was not booby-trapped like the previous 2. In fact, it led them straight to an altar. The room was rounded and encircled by 6 large stone pillars carved into torches. In the middle was a golden treasure chest in the hands of naked Uzumaki female statue. Itachi's eyes traveled to his blonde brother as he was making his way to the chest. Itachi quickly held onto his collar. Naruto turned and gave him a pouted look. If you insist to bark and charge in before you think, create a Kage Bunshin and let the clone do it for you. Naruto nodded. Kage Bunshin no jutsu. The clone, grinning, ran carelessly towards the chest and opened it without no hesitation. He peered inside. A bright beam of light struck him in the face. The clone hastily embossed his duke to shield his eyes from the luminous light. In the chest was a transparent light shape of a flaming ghost gourd that was the size of an average human skull. The clone glanced at the original. Naruto nodded. The clone tried to touch it, his hands. The clone gesticulated. The cap on the gourd mysteriously vanished. A swirling crimson light, shape of a longsword, extended through the clone's body. The clone wailed as it was being pulled and sealed in the luminous gourd. What the heck just happened? Naruto and Sasuke said in unison. It said that nothing from this world can touch and wield Totsuka. So how we to retrieve it, Datbeo? Good question. Itachi activated the Mangekyo. Tsunanu. Unkown location. 3 weeks earlier, Makoto awakened in a cave. No idea where she was and how long it has been since her abduction. She observed the scenery. She was sleeping on a bed in the middle of a cave-like room with 2 torches lit on both opposite sides. She got a better look at the ceiling. It was tangled by tree roots. She could feel chakra resonating from these roots, knowing it must be some binding jutsu from preventing her from escaping. Makoto's onyx eyes glaze at the wooden table next to her bed. It had a clock and her duffel bag with her belongings. She felt slightly relief. The door opened to her room, and she flinched and threw herself back onto her bed. A man in black robes approached her with a tray of provisions and laid it on the table next to her duffel bag. The hooded man turned and faced her with his face concealed in the shades of the hood. "Ah, it's been a while, hasn't it?" Makoto glowered at the man, but his voice had sounded familiar. "Who are? Why bring me here first place?" "To save you from Konoha." "What?" She blanched. "I'm fully aware of your husband and clan's betrayal. And I brought you here for 2 other reasons. To ensure that your eldest son does not overstep his boundaries in Akatsuki." "What's the other reason?" The man smirked as he dislodged the hood from his head. Makoto's eyes went agape in repugnance towards the man with the golden spiky dreadlocks and cerulean eyes. The man standing before her was thought to be dead practically 7 years ago, her former genin teammate, a hero during the Third Shinobi Wars and Konoha's savior many times over, her childhood crush. The man whom she had loved nearly her entire life even though she was promised to Fugaku after her birth, and had fallen in love with her best friend, and the man became the Yondaime Hokage. Namikaze Minato. Uzushio. Present. Itachi's Susanoo grasped the sword of Totsuka. Naruto and Sasuke stood stunningly as Susanoo held the gourd over its head. The statue bolt torches suddenly lit up in blue transparent flames. Suddenly, phantom wraiths that looked like grim reapers. Their bodies metamorphosed into a flaming arrow, and they launched themselves at the Uchiha brothers. Itachi took out the Yata scroll and unleashed a magical barrier. The wraiths made contact with the mirror. Their bodies were reflected off the Yata mirror like badminton. What are those, Ni-san? Those are phantoms, guardians of Totsuka. Phantoms? Naruto shrugged. More like ghosts, Dobi. GGH ghost. Naruto wobbled. I hate ghosts. He cringed. Afraid are you? Sasuke smirked evilly. Nothing to fret about, Itachi retorted as the second wave of attacks was parried by the Yata mirror. This is another trial. See for yourselves. The cap was released from the gourd as a luminous light of a longsword reached out towards the waves of wraiths. They screeched in defeat. Their longsword pulled their bodies into the gourd, sealing them for eternity. Susanoo then took the Yata mirror from its owner's hand. Both the Yata and Tosuka had grown nearly 3 times its size to fit Susanoo chakra belt where it was mounted for future use. Very impressive. To obtain the Yata mirror and the sword of Totsuka will give your Susanoo the ultimate offense and defense, making it the ultimate weapon. Just as expected from the prodigy of the Uchiha clan, the 3 veered to the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto was the most shocked out of them 3. So this is Naruto's Tusama, the Yondaime Hokage. Sasuke thought, but the thought of Makoto being intimated by another man other than his father made him nauseated. Dad? Naruto asked with insecurity. Minato glanced at his son for the first time in nearly 7 years. His facade showed him glaring at Naruto, but on the inside, Minato showed that he was hiding his true feelings. Son, you look well. I'm sorry that your mother and I was not there for you all your life. However, you're not worth my time. He gave Naruto a fake wicked grin. Naruto felt as if daggers were stabbing his heart endlessly. Naruto cried out, "You left me." Naruto cried. Unfortunately, you don't have the luxury to be chatting, as your stepmother's life is at stake. It was you who kidnapped her? Itachi said, which made his younger brother stare at him with trepidation. Are you going to destroy me? Minato mocked him, staring up at Susanoo. Minato reappeared behind Itachi, flushed a kunai to his throat. Itachi and his brothers was scared out of their wits. He heard legends of the Hiraishin no Jutsu. Faster than lightning, not even the Mangekyo could track and trace the speed of Minato. Even so, how he'd done it without throwing his famous 3-pronged kunai remained a mystery to Itachi. Outrageous. An ambiguous Itachi snapped. I've rigged my level 2 Hiraishin to activate here. We both are standing upon with a shiki, mark of speed, just before you guys entered. It is all over, forfeit or meet your father in oblivion. Itachi glanced at the active shiki, swirling up his leg like a centipede. He smirked. Perhaps you underestimate an Uchiha, Hokage-sama. Minato's eyes were captured by the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan. His world went blank for 10 seconds before appearing inside of an active volcano, standing on magma. Minato was awestruck at the wonderful scenery created by Makoto's son. He is truly a prodigy to use such a potent genjutsu, the Tsukuyomi. So this is how you killed your relatives. Casting Tsukuyomi on the Uchiha clan. Very Neanderthal, but judging from the circumstances, I too would have done the same thing in your place. But I'm completely inveigled under your illusion. Itachi remained impassive, studying the rogue Hokage, and intrigued that he knows so much about the Uchiha clan's secrets. This was all the reason Itachi should dispose of Minato before he became a bigger threat to him and his family, but something told him. A gut impression that Minato was not here to inflict harm on them, or he would already have. For every reason, you could have had me killed before you made your presence known. You contrived me to cast Tsukuyomi, or it was a ploy to avoid eavesdrop from the third party. So 2 questions that will be conveyed to you: safety out of the ears reached of an unwanted company. How did you survive? And why deceived Konoha? Minato chuckled. Too shrewd, I can see why he picked you in the first place. Minato caressed his chin. It all begins with Akatsuki and the leader. Speak. The leader is? Minato scowled. You already know who it is. Itachi shrugged. The brother of the man who'd permeated and varnished my son with his Sharingan and blood. To say the very least, Itachi's horrid expression was paled and white as a ghost. Flashback. Minato-sama, but why? How did you survive? I survived, so I could keep the village and Kushina safe. Makoto twiddled with her fingers. She was nervous, both sad and furious. And if the Yandame was alive and well, that made him a defector, and he'd betrayed the village he was affiliated with and swore on oath as a shinobi and the Yondaime Hokage. Her thought wandered to her childhood friend, Kushina. Where is she? Minato glanced at her half-heartedly. I demand an explanation immediately. She's safe and kept hidden from the world. I don't understand you. Why did you abandon Konoha? That's for another time. Now the question I want to know is, your infatuation for me is still in existence? Conversely, has it been squandered? Makoto peered away with a redness on her cheeks. She hadn't felt this way since before she was married. Even when Fukagu claimed her virginity. Her blushes were never in comparison to the one she was expressing when Minato's handsomely image always made her horny. Even during more than half the time she thought of Minato, imagining him in Fukagu's place. There were several close calls that she nearly screamed out his name during her climax with Fukagu. Many would consider her as being a whore and a wife who had committed adultery mentally. Makoto knew that people were born to marry whoever they want, and this wasn't her case. She was deprived of that freedom with her arranged marriage to Fukagu. Every time he fucked her, Makoto knew it was not affection. It was lust. She knew profoundly she was nothing but a slave, a trophy wife. Born to be one without questions. But the way Minato glanced upon Kushina and treated her was first-class loyal and affection. She wanted that, needed that, and now that she has been widowed, her and Kushina's long-life childhood dream of sharing Minato was within reach. Yes, Kushina and her are bile and had been fucking each other reticently before Minato and Kushina became a couple, and she married Fukagu. And Minato could fall in love with one of them. But what about her, Makoto? She knew Minato was never attracted to her during their teens, even though they spent. And when the team finally disbanded, Makoto never had the courage to ask him out on dates because he stated that his teammates were like brother and sister and Jiraiya-sensei was like a father to him. And now that remained to be the only obstacle preventing her from achieving hers and Kushina's dream. His feelings for her were nothing but platonic. How will she make Minato fall in love with her? You're a married man. You have no right to ask me that, she said, still blushing. You're scheduled to become my concubine. The look on Makoto's face was priceless. Her forehead and cheeks were red as Kushina's hair, and she passed out, similar to Hinata passing out in front of Naruto. The trip to Kirikagure was faster than lightning. Thanks to the Hiraishin, Minato was to accompany them on the way. They haven't spoken a word since they left Uzushio. Sasuke, out of his two brothers, was the most furious. He wanted to strangle Minato with right there and then. Minato reminded him of Fukagu. How he was betrayed by his father, now experiencing it again with Naruto and Minato. Sasuke unsheathed Masamune and brought it to its 6 feet size. Minato glanced at his way and smiled. You're planning to use that sword? Make sure you land a clean hit. All who'd attempt to attack me in the past failed miserably. Sasuke. Itachi laid a hand on his shoulder. Think reasonably. Sasuke nodded, but still glared at the grinning Yondaime. He shrunk Masamune to a dagger lengthen and sheathed it in its scabbard. This is where I leave you three. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that since I've aided the three of you, I'll have to move up the deadline. You have exactly 24 hours to assassinate the Yondaime Mizukage and meet at Kiri's Center Plaza. What's the motive behind it? Isn't a bit suicidal? Itachi asked cautiously. That's your problem, not mine. Your job is not to ask questions, just simply carry them out. He pointed beyond the bluffs. Over there is where you begin your final journey. Terumi Ray awaits all of you there at the resistance camp. Join up with her. She is the leader of the resistance. Quote, what does she look like? Naruto asked eagerly. Minato chuckled. I'm glad you asked, son. She has long auburn hair. She has jugs of the legendary Sanin Senju Tsunade. Nothing you need to worry about except for one thing. Don't piss her off. Her temper can easily rival your mother's. Your mother was a monster back in the day, hidden beneath beauty. Just ask your elder brother. Naruto and Sasuke glanced at a quivering Itachi. Demonic, was all that rang in his ear. Minato disappeared into thin air. Naruto said nothing, and remained passively silent. It was not a normal sight to see for an obnoxious, boisterous boy, Sasuke thought. Maybe he was mentally dramatized by Minato's sudden appearance and ass-pulled behavior. Sasuke patted Naruto on the back before focusing his eyes on Itachi. "What was that all about, Ni-san?" Sasuke asked. "It means we've got work to do." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Mei had just returned to the camp, barely exhausted from defending off waves of Kiri shinobi. A resistance platoon was annihilated and she was the only one to survive the onslaught. What remains of the resistance were less than 40 shinobi. "At this rate, we will be crushed. Mei-sama, Jinchoro is right. We need to surrender now when have the chance. We don't stand a chance against Kisame and the rest of the 7 swordsmen of the mist," Sasama said. Mei studied the grim expressions from both her subordinates. She was not going to FND prosperity. She can't do that if Alter and knelt before Yagura the Yondaime Mizukage. She had seen enough horror and brutality done by the Yondaime for a lifetime. Her dreams and goals were to cleanse Kiri from the blood mist age and restore peace of prosperity. She can't do that with weak-minded subordinates by her side. "I would rather die fighting for Kirikager's sake than to bow down to that monster. Anyone wishes to leave may do so, but be warned. Rather or not the coup is a success, you all will be branded rogue ninjas. What do you say? Fight by my side or run like a coward, because there will be no surrender. Yagura will have us all executed for high treason. The only guarantee for survival is that we eliminate Yagura and put an end to his reign." "But that's far-fetched, my lady. We don't have the numbers to continue this campaign." Jinchoro shook his head. "We are still waiting for the Uchiha. They have the power to turn the tides of this civil war into our favor with those legendary swords. We don't even know that they will succeed, or that they will even come to our aid." "I wouldn't be so sure about that." Everyone turned to glare Itachi with his brothers, waltzing into the camp. Mei smirked. "And who might you 3 be?" Sasama asked with politeness. "Believe it," Naruto exclaimed. "We are the Sharingan brothers, Datbeo." His 2 brothers were glaring at him, while the entire camp remained dumbstruck. Flashback. 2 weeks ago. She couldn't believe the concubine ceremony went splendid 3 days ago. Everything went perfect except that there was no traditional to consummate the marriage. She's now the second wife of Namikaze Minato and his first concubine. Like she had any choice. She was a slave to his words. There was no honeymoon as she expected. Even in marriage, Minato's feelings for her were nothing but platonic. But she always had this feeling that his platonic nature was a facade to hide his true nature, ever since she got married to Fukagu. She never questioned why he never took her and claimed her as his own, even though he said that he was willing to help her restore the Uchiha clan and prevent her from falling into the wrong hands of other men by marrying them, and that she would be a part of Naruto's life as more than a foster parent. She suspected that Minato is too faithful of a man to take another woman to bed, even if Kushina allowed him. She wrapped the towel over her drenched raven hair. She slowly dressed in her nightgown. She brushed her hair, looking up at the tree roots on the ceiling. The very first week she was here, she tried to escape and triked Minato over the head. However, the roots on the ceiling entangled her like vines, restraining her. She had the luxury to explore if she obeyed the regulation Minato had bestowed upon her. Minato was waiting for outside the bathroom. His eyes traveled at her half-exposé, bra-less chest. Makoto's cheeks flared red. He was staring at her tits. Embarrassment and raging hormones were fighting for dominance inside of her. And Minato kept on staring at them as if she was a statue. This was Makoto's moment to change his heart. It was obvious the look on his face was passive and he was testing her judgment. She had either 2 choices, strip all her clothing or cover up. If she stripped, this would give Minato all the notion in the world that she was still a fangirl and a potential slut. This was not something Makoto wanted on her conscience. She quickly tied the girth tighter, so less opening around her torso could be exposed. She then slapped Minato across the face. She glanced up at the root turrets. They retracted on command before they had a chance to ensnare her. Minato rubbed the handprint mark on his cheek. His eyes observed her with curiosity. This was not the fangirl he knew. "I knew it. You are perverted just as much as sensei." She spat in his face. Minato chuckled and wiped the saliva of his face. "I see Fukagu has tainted you with more than just his seeds. You're frightened to become intimate with another man just because you experience betrayal too. I do know of betrayal too. Konoha's elders and your clan has sold me and Kushina out to the man in the orange masked. Makoto flinched when he was referring to Madara, but he quickly changed the topic. I had to give it a try, you know. Staring at your boobs does make me a pervert. She looked away from his eyes, blushing like a teenage girl that she was. Fear not, I'm actually delightful that you don't want to get your hands dirty. That's good. Because I felt nothing when I stared at your chest or your half-naked body. It was an half-lie. I always preferred the penis pump method. All I have to do is think back at one of those makeout sessions that I had with Kushina. Feel free to use my seeds at your disposal. Good day. He started leaving. Makoto's heart was shattered. She felt the word collapsed beneath her when he'd said that. She never expected him to lash out at her like that. He was right, at least he gave it a shot. Makoto may have just thrown her ticket to sleep in his bed, but she can't falter. She doesn't want to be a trophy wife like in her previous marriage. She wanted to be a woman deserving of true affection by her spouse. Not a tool. You are no different than Fugaku. In fact, you're just like him. Minato furrowed a brow. Don't look at me like that. Fukagu may have been the only one to fuck me, but I know the look of lust and desire in the eyes of men that undressed me with their eyes over the years. They want to fuck me, not love me. It simply amazes me where you're going with this. Oh really? Ever since you and Kushina became a couple, I noticed the changes in your demeanor and the way you look at me. You are not the same Minato on Team Jiraiya. The Minato I know would have never undressed me with his eyes. So who are you really? Minato chuckled. Such speculation will get you nowhere, my love. My love? She giggled. Kushina has told you her big secret while you guys started dating? Oh, you mean that she's bi and she had an illicit affair with another woman? That I do know. He snickered at a horrified Makoto. She did told me just that, and I have nothing against it. That was before we became a couple and I have no right to divulge myself in her previous romantic life just as I do with your previous marriage. But, he pointed at her. His face showed perverted implications of emotions. I came to visit Kushina at her apartment one night from my return on a 3-year trip training with Jiraiya-sensei. I heard some moaning and grunting. At first, I thought Kushina was under attack, but as I went on the balcony, I peered through the window and I saw Kushina making out with someone. My heart felt as if it was being constricted by a boa constrictor, and the person she was making out with is none other than you. Makoto couldn't look him in the eyes, afraid to see them. At first, I couldn't believe my eyes and believed that Kushina had a thing for ladies too. When I saw you there, and both of you moaning out my name in pure ecstasy, all the anger and abated in my heart and happiness had been fully restored to a point beyond what it originally was. That night, I did not find myself yearning for one woman. Minato cupped her chin and tilted it upwards. Makoto's eyes were raining tears. Ever since that night, the sister that I loved in Team Jiraiya died before my very own eyes. No longer I viewed you as a sister, but something else entirely. I'm truly apologized for peeping on you too. Makoto wiped the tears from her eyes. Why couldn't you be honest with me in the first place? How do you feel about me now? Minato looked away like a coward. He gestured at her to back away. I've said too much. Whether you like it or not, you have no choice to restore the Uchiha clan. There are 3 options. I knock you up, I'll give you my seed, or you will do it for me. She shuddered when Minato turned and gave her a wicked grimly smile. Trust me when I say this, if you're not pregnant by the time he presumes complete control over me, you're going to wish you should have taken options 1 and 10-fold before he's through with you. Makoto grasped Minato's collar. Minato flinched under her iron grip as she tugged him towards her. Who is he? Answer me, Minato. Let's just say that you already have met his younger brother just before you departed Konoha. Minato gave her a fake wicked chuckle to the look of horror within her eyes. You're a madman, she said it faintly. You're a monster. She slapped him in the face. Minato only laughed hysterically. Monster? You're the monster. You betrayed your best friend and sold her out to Danzo or Konoha. I did no such thing. I love Kushina. Fitting. Your clan were not present at the night the Kyuubi was extracted from Kushina after she gave birth to Naruto. And you know what happened to Naruto? He was nearly killed 3 times. Minato growled at a faltering Makoto. The masked man tossed him up in the air and used him for kunai practice, and that was not enough. He attached paper bombs on Naruto's covering, to lure me away from Kushina while he worked on. Please, enough. Oh, the best part is to come. You know what happened when we were sealing the 9 tails in Naruto? The thing lashed out with its claw, threatening to end Naruto. Me and my wife stood in front of Naruto. We intercepted the claw and diverted it away from Naruto by sacrificing our bodies. You couldn't begin to imagine the pain that he had gone through for 10 minutes of having our inside ripped apart from our bodies. Kushina was dying and there was nothing I could do to save her. The only option she had left was that I draw out her remaining chakra, and sealed it into Naruto, so that she could visit Naruto one last time in the future. He glared. Now how do you feel now? Are you proud to call yourself a friend of Kushina and a mother to Naruto after all they've been through? Makoto was so disoriented at the point she could hardly talk. I'm sorry. Please just stop. Minato reached down and brushed the strands of hair from her face and wiped the tears from her face. Fair enough. Minato carried her bride style and he was heading to the master's room. Makoto had a hunch that Minato might claim her tonight as he laid her on the bed. She was a bit surprised that he was leaving the room. Don't worry, I'm not the type of guy to take advantage of a pretty lady. I'll come in the morning with my semen, get some rest. Makoto's face flushed red. At least there's still a sanely part of him left. She chuckled mentally. Uchiha Madara. Was it him who'd saved you from the Shiiki Fujin? Minato nodded. I don't understand. According to what Kushina said to me, the Shinigami removes the soul of the caster and devours it after it completes the sealing ritual. How is it that you're still among the living? Are you aware that Madara had taken the Shodai Hokage's cell and powers? Makoto shrugged. Hashirama's cells contained not only the yang chakra of the Sage of the Six Paths and the abilities to use wood-release jutsu, but his cells contain extraordinary life force that can replenish someone's depleted life force, regenerated destroyed tissue, limbs, and can transported their life force and soul into another person to prolong their lifespan. Like this. Minato removed his white robes. He lifted up his long-sleeve shirt and showed her his well-muscular torso. Makoto would have blushed if it wasn't for the head-shaped figure of a youthful Madara on Minato's skin. She inspected it. The head was alive but sleeping. Suddenly, she felt her heart pounding on the side of her ribcage. Minato glanced at her sadly. This is how I lived. Madara's soul and life force attached to me. But I do not know whose soul had been used for the exchange. Beyond the camp's borderlines, the Sharingan brothers waited in ambush within the trenches that the rebels had dug for some time. Naruto complained the most as he was usually the impatient amongst the 3 brothers. Whining about laying on the pebbles were pricking into his ribs and insects were crawling over his orange jumpsuit. Sasuke face-palmed and told him to shut up. Here they come, Itachi muttered. A regiment of 20 ninjas were marching in a single line. A knot had formed in Naruto's throat. These were not your USUA everyday ninja. Those were the elite and the best that any shinobi nation could ever have. These Anbu had always scared him with those bizarre masks they wore, concealing their faces. Mei raised her hand and brought it down like an axe chopped into a log, signaling the attack. The rebels screamed war cries as they threw in shurikens and kunais. Most of the Anbu were caught unexpectedly. 3 ninjas fell into their own pool of blood, gushing out from the fatal wounds. They were literally covered with projectiles, pricking out from their own flesh. Charge! Mei cried out. Naruto lounged forward, plunging the Buster sword into the nearest man's chest. The man countered it on the center of his ninhanto, but it never prevented the inevitable, devastating thrust of Naruto's brute thrusts that severed the ninhanto in half and entered the man's chest. He gasped as Naruto thrust inward. He stared at the blonde toddler in disbelief before falling onto his back, bathing in his own pool of blood. The weight of the man's corpse was too much for him to grip Retribution's hilt. The sword remained embedded. Naruto quickly tried to wrench the sword out of the corpse, but his strength as a mere child could not pry the sword out at will. Naruto struggled. His belly churned as several Anbu were closing on him. Profound trepidation gave him every ounce of adrenaline and strength to wrench Retribution free. Too much strength made him stumbled. He quickly got up and hoisted the sword. The first Anbu underestimated Naruto's speed as a swordsman. He thought the child's immature size and knowledge could make him superior head-on. A mere child or genin would be no match for a Jonin or Anbu's speed, but Naruto was a different story. The man reached out with a kunai, aiming the pointed end down at Naruto's throat to end the toddler's life. That was the last thing he ever done, as black curtain was bestowed upon his vision. He was decapitated from Naruto lightning over hand stroke of retribution. The headless body vaulted past him. The fallen Anbu's comrades deadpanned, but was replaced by rage. They launched water bullet jutsu at Naruto. Naruto held out retribution diagonally, left hand on tip and right hand on hilt, pushing the flat end of the sword into the balls of projected water. He expected to be overwhelmed by the impact a surge of the water bullets. Retribution nullified that by absorbing the water bullets into itself, manifesting a bubble shroud of water around itself. Naruto was shocked. He could not explain it or come to comprehend what had just transpired. He felt his hands being drenched with water, but it was not cold. It was lukewarm. Naruto shrugged. He charged the remaining Anbu that pursued to end his life. He expected to cut them down with retribution, not have it unleashed a tidal wave on the very first stroke he swung retribution. The Anbu were caught off guard unexpectedly. They were pulverized by the body of water. Naruto looked at the wet, dripping retribution. It no longer had the water, bubbling shroud. Cool, he exclaimed. Naruto's eyes fallen upon his brothers. Sasuke Masamune extended 3 times of its length and pierced 3 Anbu through the chest like chickens on a spit. Itachi cast Tsukuyomi on the remaining Anbu and went up to them and cut them down with his katana. Mei was impressed and held back her man as they watched the 3 brothers slaughtered the regiment. She was very impressed with the legendary swords. Extraordinary. Just like the scroll said. Retribution is a sword that can absorb and reflect all 5 of the elements and expel it back to its target. The Masamune can extend to an unlimited range and called upon lightning from the heavens. Although, Sasuke never did that. Later, the boys joined Mei at the hot spring. Itachi, being more than old enough to feel his hormones raged, couldn't bear the sight of an exquisitely naked woman so close to him. His cheeks were red. The boys, still too young to experience any intimacy, never bothered by the sight of a naked woman. They bathed with Makoto occasionally. The experience with Mei was just another pamper courtesy. Mei looked at the boys as she brushed their heads and backs. She never minded, because it brought back pleasant memories of her younger brother that had perished during the beginning of the rebellion, murdered by Yagura. He was only 8. She immediately pushed that excruciating memory out from her mind. So how old are you guys? 7. Datbeo. Sheesh. Dobi, you didn't had to shout. That's quite alright, Mei commented. I see where he gets his boisterous and energetic traits from. You knew my parents? Oh yes, sweetheart. But not as much as your mother. What was she like? Your mother was a motormouth, she said it with humor. She was very beautiful. She was my mentor and good friend of mine. I was just maybe couple years older than you when I first met her in the Chunin exams. Konoha referred to her as the hot-blooded habanero because of her exquisite long red hair that made her seem demonic when she'd soloed by beating mobs of boys. Her reputation was known among Konoha as her and her husband Minato went to fame during the Third Shinobi Wars. In foreign lands, Kushina was nicknamed the Crimson Death from her heroic deed, devastated Kumo's army nearly laid the Sandaime Raikage to waste. Mei smirked at a shocked Naruto. This is how I've came to know Kushina to be a Jinchuriki, hosting the Kyuubi inside of her. Legend said that the Raikage had singly bested the Hachibi, 8-tailed beast, in single combat. No way, the boys said in unison. Even Itachi seemed surprised. The Raikage was said to have a body harder than titanium. Not even the 8 tails could pierce his flesh. The 9 tails, however, was a different story. She furrowed her brows. Kushina infused her chakra chains with the Kyuubi's chakra. It was able to penetrate his indestructible flesh of armor, shackling him. These enchanted chains were from the Uzumaki clan that were used to subdue and seal away anything. These chains could constrict and tear the flesh of the bone from a cow in milliseconds. The Raikage resisted, pouring lightning bolts into the chains in hope to reach her, but the chains were not alloy that could conduct electricity. It proved to be futile that his body was only that of a mortal. His sons intervened in time to sever her chakra chain binds from her. I stood there horrified. I spat out my undeveloped magma into the eldest son's face. His name is EE Speed was something out of this world. I never seen a man move like that until I was about to die. E's fist would have ripped my chest open. The next thing I knew, I was being held bride-style in your father's arms. Minato was Kushina's betrothal. That's how I came to befriend your father and develop a little crush for him. I admit that he's handsome enough to rival any Uchiha men, she blushed. However, out of respect for Kushina, I did not explore my feelings for Minato. In due time, my infatuation of him evaporated. We thanked Kami. Minato rescued both me and your mother that night. Naruto said nothing as tears trickled down cheek. The way may have spoken about Kushina as if she were dead. A knot, the size of a golf ball, formed in his throat at the thought of his mother dead. He hoped somewhere she was out there, still amongst the living as his wretched father. Is my Ka-chan, lives? His voice was abysmal. Mei shuddered. I don't know. Minato refuses to say anything about her. She saw the moisture cascading down his cheeks. It was not from the hot spring, she thought. I think you guys are all set. Let me have a word or two with you, Ni-sama. Naruto and Sasuke sighed wearily, leaving the two alone. Sasuke noticed the horror in Itachi's eyes. He was cursing at them not to leave him alone with the kunoichi all alone in the nude. Mei smacked her lips seductively. Her face was flushed red. So, she said it festively. Do you have a girlfriend? Itachi's shoulders slumped, knowing where this topic was heading, because he felt his loins hardened like never before. He never answered her as he stood up, regardless he was in the nude. Wait, Mei had seen it for no more than 2 seconds before he'd shunned Shin out of the hot spring. Mei had only seen a handful of male penises in her life. A week ago. Let me get that for you. I know what I'm doing. I wish for no further assistance. I didn't recall you being the stubborn type. What has Fukagu done to my sweet, meekly Makoto? He jested. Minato stood behind her, reaching over her on both sides as if he was going to embrace her. Minato placed his right hand onto hers, gliding her hands with the spatula, flipping over the fried-over easy eggs in the frying pan. He slowly assisted her removing the eggs onto a separate dish. He reached over her, removing the frying pan onto a spit, over a bonfire and set it aside. His other hand clamped her other wrist. She was held within those strong arms. She could feel his husky breath, trickling down the nape of her neck, as he breathed in the scent of her hair. She shuddered and he wrapped his arms around her waist, wrenching her closer. She was pressed so tightly against him that she could feel the erection in his lower region, flushed against her flesh. By Kami, this man was going to rape her and there was nothing she could do about it. He forced himself upon you, didn't he? Makoto stiffened at his question. What difference would it make, knowing that he was going to take her without her consent, she thought. She never replied, afraid that the wrong answer would slip out from her juicy mouth. Minato just held her silently for several minutes. Look at me, he said as he lessened the grip on her. He spun her around, so quickly that she never had time to react. She yelped as Minato unintentionally groped her buttocks. He quickly slipped his hands further up her waist, giving her an apologetic look. Poor thing, he said faintly. Such a pity. What is? She cursed herself from not sealing her lips tight. His brows furrowed. You never experienced pleasure, haven't you? 2 sons you've given birth to, and the bastard not once gave you pleasure. His head inched closer. The lump in her throat was the size of a golf ball. Shush, he murmured, brushing the black strands away from her eyes. His other hand went to her right, caressing it gently. His lips were merely centimeters away. Minato. MMMH. His lips pursed against hers. He felt her shuddered at his gentle kiss. His lips did not force its way into her mouth, but brushed the up lip. For some reason, her body reacted to his lips, patiently awaiting entry. His tongue inserted into her mouth, intertwining with hers, swapping and exchanging saliva. They parted lips shortly. He carried her bride style and sat on his rocking chair, her mounted on his lap, facing him. Minato recaptured her lips. Makoto remained shocked, but impassive as to where he would lead her in bed sporting. Oh Kami, she thought. She never experienced such gentleness and caring from a man's pleasure. Fukagu was always forceful with his sloppy kisses, while Minato took the time to explore her with care. He did not force himself upon her that she had thought before. She moaned into his mouth as her body rebelled against her will. She deepened this kiss. Her belly ached, yearned to be plowed. She wanted him inside her. She felt her undergarment soaked from her juices onto the tent of his erection. They kissed for 5 more minutes, while he cradled her like a baby, rocking in the chair. Minato's hormones were raging out of control. Lust began to kick in, and he knew he'd had to stop before he lost himself. Kushina has such a good taste in women. It is to my loss that I hadn't explored you too sooner while you were betrothed to Fukagu. I would have taken you away, thus you would have experienced pleasure beyond your imagination. Asked Kushina. He smirked. She said nothing but her cheeks were red. She felt a tang of jealousy toward Kushina. Not because she has Minato, but the affection she couldn't experience from her late husband. Pleasure can only be given only when a woman desires it. Without it, it would become a woman's nightmare, which by the likes of you suffered. I have no intentions of inflicting those nightmares upon you. My ravishment is blissfulness, never torture. However, your body desires me while your heart and will are rebellious. This also can't be out of pleasure. You'll come to regret it once I've taken you. All three, the mind, body and soul must give in to me. In other words, he won't bed me, she thought. Minato read her like a book. Now she really believed that Minato knew her more than Fugaku. That's to be expected after growing up with him in the academy and becoming Team Jiraiya. She thought being a whore was the worst case, but not experiencing romantic affection by rutting seemed worse. She knew Minato was the man of her dreams, and she failed to meet up with his standards. Tears trickled down her cheeks. She was happy, on cloud 9. Minato was not one to ravish women, despite his comment. He had highly respect for all females and cherished them like treasure, rather if it's platonic or not. He could have taken her on many occasions, but never. Heian was truly a man of honor and dignity. I've never lusted for any other woman besides Kushina. And mostly, I don't get to plow her womb because she isn't ready for. A man's lust is extremely hazardous to any women caught within. There is no on and off switch for the raging hormones. And most men go insane and berserk. Women are often raped and murdered because they have no control. Even husbands and good men are capable of these hideous actions. The only alternative a man has is to either jerk off with his penis or masturbate until he orgasms. Very abashing, but it works like magic. Minato smirked as Makoto's face was red like a tomato. I find myself with this shameful situation. Minato stood up and sat Makoto in the rocking chair. While my prick is still stiff as a rock, I shall be back within 30 minutes with my seeds. Eat up first before you step through that door. He pointing toward the basement door. He fled into the opposite direction. Makoto was left bewilderment to her thoughts about Minato. He was never afraid to speak his mind with such inappropriate remarks in the presence of his mate or mates. Perhaps this was the other side of him she had yet to explore. Perhaps this would explain the numerous occasions Kushina would beat him to a bloody pulp. After all, where were his manners? She chuckled. She ate her breakfast and proceeded down the stairway that led to a chamber. It was a laboratory of some sort. There were huge vial tubes of deformed human specimens. All appeared to be identical. Clones perhaps. As she surveyed one of the specimens through the transparent tubes. It was encased in a green toxic-like substance with a respirator attached to its mouth. As boils formed numerous bubbles. The specimen looked like it was half tree and half human to be precise. The far end of the chamber was a much bigger case. As she neared it, her heart nearly jumped out of her mouth. In the case, the redhead Uzumaki Kushina rested peacefully naked. Multiple tree roots pricked out from her back from the spinal cord. Her eyes traveled down to the root's location. It had breached the floor panel of the case. The roots burrowed with the earth, which had elevated the tube some time ago. It looks like Kushina was part of the earth itself, she thought. Her eyes traveled to her torso. The immense scar left by the Kyuubi's claw was still there. Her torso has been reconstructed, but her beautiful of her torso would be forever lost, due to all the scarring. What on Kami's green earth did they do to you? Vines began sprouting beneath her, ensnaring her. She shrieked and screamed for help, but it was futile. It has been far too long, my friend. Kushina, is that you? It's me speaking to you telepathically. We don't have all day to be well acquainted with this reunion. What I'll tell you, must keep it a secret. Minato and I are planning to purge of Madara from this world. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.